I'd like to call to order the regular meeting Monday, March 27, 2017. Would you please join Mayor Loretano for the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we ask for your guidance, we ask for your grace. We ask for your wisdom to help this council make good decisions for our city. We ask for your protection for those that serve at home, our citizens here and abroad. We ask for your wisdom for our leaders throughout the United States. And we ask for your special prayers for our friends and family who are going through some tough times right now. In your name we pray, amen.
So I'll just pick her card, and then you can give her to her now.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We are all here tonight, and Councilman Stipp, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm still here.
I understand you're going to be participating via telephone through item 7.3. Is that correct?
That would be much appreciated, yes.
All right. Thanks so much. All right, let's go to communication. We have one communication item tonight, and Bernadette Mills, Director of the West Valley Arts Council, will provide an update on details about the Goodyear Lakeside Music Fest to be held on April 8th, 2017 at Estrella Amphitheater. And Guyleen Azelinski, our Art and Culture Coordinator, will introduce.
Council, Bernadette Mills. Bernadette Mills takes the art. What the Arts Council has done so many amazing things. We have a long-standing tradition of partnering with the West Valley Arts Council, and they bring always quality, engaging arts programming to our city, and we're just very excited about that. This evening, Bernadette's going to be sharing more about the upcoming Lakeside Music Fest.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me again. It's always an annual tradition and a treat to come here. We've been with you guys for over 20 years presenting some type of music festival up at Estrella. And as you can see, the past couple of years, we've had this great relationship with Goodyear and with Newland and with Guyleen and the Arts Commission to create a festival that is for everyone. We grew it from the Symphony Pops concert into something that really has a genre of music to everybody's taste. I'm just going to run down the list of bands that we have featured as we kind of scroll through some of the previous pictures so you can kind of get a sense of the event. If you haven't been there, it's going to be April 8th from noon to 9. We are opening up with Vibe, which is the youth band that lives in Estrella, and they're going to sing top 40 hits. We're going to have the Estrella High School band. They're going to perform. Now remember, it's early, it's hot, so we kind of start, with some of the smaller bands, and we kind of ramp it up throughout the day. Rasta Farmers, they call themselves an Arizona Desert Rat reggae band. Jim Fab, who's a local Buckeye firefighter with a passion for performing. We have Screaming Javelinas. They're going to be performing around 2:45. Patrick from APS, everybody knows Patrick, he's in the band, and so we're really excited to have them play. And they do a lot of classic rock. James Reams and the Barnstormers, they're going to be playing contemporary bluegrass. Spooky Cool, a lot of people know Gabe, I forget Gabe's last name, but he's been in the band, he's a Leadership West grad, he's a wonderful jazz musician. Sugar Thieves we've had before, they play blues and some jazz as well, but they've been Phoenix Blues Society's Arizona State Blues Showdown 3-time winner. A band called Don't Tell Mom. As you know, we've had this great relationship with Alice Cooper Solid Rock Foundation. They won the 2016 Proof is in the Pudding band, and they're all, I think, under the age of 15, 12, 11, and the boys can rock. Desert Nights, we've had them before, and they are just classic country music. Doug Deathridge, who leads the band, has played for Toby Keith, Jerry Reed, Waylon Jennings. Then we have the Moonlight Howlers, which is the first time we've had a rockabilly band, which will be a lot of fun. And then we're wrapping up the evening with a band called Lane Change, which is basically just your top 40, classic. They do a little bit of everything, and they are, I think, they've got a very big Facebook following, and that's why we wanted to bring them to the event. But as you can see from these photos, we have people of all ages dancing, enjoying the night. This is the first year that we're going to have a VIP tent, so we encourage you all to come to that. We're going to have barbecue food. We're going to have fun. We're going to have games. We're going to have a big kids tent. There's Alice Cooper. We're going to have a big kids area with Lego racing track. Phoenix Center for the Arts is bringing their Artmobile and some other art activities. We've got food trucks. We've got the Goodyear Arts Commission that they'll have a booth as well. And then we've got the list of bands here in the Times. We've got all the literature on our Facebook page, on West Valley Arts Council's page, and Goodyear's page. And we couldn't do this without our sponsors. I got to list them. Besides City of Goodyear, we've got Newland, we have APS, Desert Diamond Casino, Orcutt Winslow, Epcor, First Bank. And without them, we couldn't make this possible. Without all of you being there, it wouldn't be possible. And I have to say, your staff is amazing. We have a very small staff here at the Arts Council, and with Guyleen and everybody that helps us put this together, it's a big success. So I hope you'll come.
Well, thank you very, very much for the presentation. I'm sure council has comments. It's just very exciting, and it's unbelievable that you've been with us that long, and it's just grown. And the pictures are exciting. I guess we're all going to have to get out there and dance this year. How about that, Joe?
I'll try.
Okay.
Alice Cooper was there last year.
All right, let's start with our vice mayor.
Okay, as you guys know, I live up there, and it was so much fun last year. And if you have something to do, you can come for a little while. You can bring your blanket and then come back to, again, and if you have to come and go. And it was just absolutely so much fun, especially at nighttime. And I have to echo what you say about Guyleen. Her and her Arts Commission are just absolutely wonderful. And I thank you all, and I hope everybody comes out and rocks. I mean, he likes hard rock. Alice Cooper was there last year.
Any other comments?
It's free. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but it is free and it's all day long.
Comments? Well, I can tell we're all looking forward to it, right?
Absolutely.
Joe does have one. No,
Put me
I'm not
down,
giving you
Guyleen, for the
first one.
RSVP, okay?
The
Put me,
RSVP?
yeah, put me down.
All right.
We'll have you down.
Guyleen, thank you too, and thank you very much. We're looking
you.
forward to it.
No problem.
Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda items. And so before I go, let me just tell you that if you are a speaker, this is the results that could happen. The Council will listen to the comments and may take any one of the following. We can respond to criticism. We can, number 2, request the staff investigate and report on the matter. And number 3, request the matter be scheduled on a future agenda. And each of you speakers, because I know agenda items, we have quite a few speakers here tonight. So each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. A yellow light and buzzer will let you know that you have 30 seconds left to speak. I know that's difficult, but that's the way the rules are. So I wanted to kind of give you, I saw so many of you sitting in the audience, I kind of wanted to give you a preview of it so you can think about what you want to say. Before you begin to speak, identify yourself, your name clearly, and stating for the record the name and the address. Now, if it's a big group tonight and you have a couple of you are going up to talk about the same thing, you have the same reasons, you might want to combine it. But it's up to you. It kind of makes the evening not go as long and keep you here as long. But I'm not going to make a rule on it. I'm just going to make that suggestion. So we do have one card for non-agenda item, and that is no parking sign postponement, and by the name of Frank Mercy. Would you come forward, please?
My name is Frank Mercy. I live at 3966 North 148th Drive, Goodyear 85395. Mayor Lord, council members, thank you. I'm here about concerns over a petition for no parking during school days on 148th Drive and Amelia Avenue. It was presented by one individual with some misinformation, and I feel many signed it under a misconception. The petition was presented as only affecting students and not residents or their guests. The term used was selective enforcement. That struck me, and after research, I found out that is not true, especially in a city like Goodyear. At least two families have removed their names from the petition. As it stands, the signs will go in place this Wednesday. Our request is that this be postponed until all neighbors are made aware of this misconception and the legitimacy of the petition can be determined. This seems especially prudent since there are only 8 weeks of school left this year. It would not only allow the neighbors to decide with accurate facts, but would allow us time to work with the school to explore solutions that are less burdensome for both students and the residents. Many of us want to be good neighbors to the school and its students. We hope to find a more agreeable solution for the problem, which will end when the new school opens in 2018. If you would like, I have copies of a letter that I've written to the city expressing my concerns.
You may give
Thank
it
you.
to the city clerk.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. I'm going to say this as maybe a criticism. Can we respond to the comment about the day it's going up?
Mayor, members of the council, and thank you, Mr. Mercy. No, we do not have plans of putting them up this Wednesday, so that information is, that's the first we've heard of that. So it's something that we are working with the residences on right now, and we'll continue to do that.
So what you just said is we do not have a date for those signs to go up. Is that correct?
And Mayor, I'd also ask Rebecca, even though it's not an agenda item, just to tell you how we're handling this.
Yes, please, Rebecca.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Originally, when we had received the signatures, we did have plans to install it by this Wednesday, which was 2 weeks from the date. However, we have received information from 2 or 3 of the property owners retracting their signature, which then dropped us below the 80%, which is required by the policy that's been approved by Council. So once we received that, we then notified the original gentleman that received all of the signatures that we would not be installing it.
Thank you very much for that information. Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, let's go on to the consent agenda. Would the city clerk please read consent agenda items 6.1 to 6.4 by title only, please?
Item 6.1, approved draft minutes from a special meeting and a regular meeting held on February 27, 2017, and a regular meeting held on March 6, 2017. Item 6.2, adopt resolution number 17-1789, promoting fair housing and recognizing April as Fair Housing Month. Item 6.3, accept the amendment to the right-of-way number 16-94823 with the Arizona State Trust to add underground utilities to the existing public road easement associated with the Arroyo Ranch development. Item 6.4, approve the February 2017 budget transfers.
Thank you very much. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? All right, then could I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
And I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Lortano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne? Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, then we're going to go on to business. And I'd like to remind council to refrain from asking questions on the business until the staff presentations are done. But at the beginning here, we're going to have, of course, open public hearing. So we'll start with 7.1. It's a public hearing to consider the amendment to the PV 303 pad to update development standards and to change the land use on 4 parcels from general commercial to light industrial. So I'm going to open the meeting. And Steve Carecci, Planner 3, will be making the presentation. Steve?
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. do have a PowerPoint presentation for you tonight with any of the slides. If you need me to elaborate on something or have a question, please do so, but I'll try to go through this quickly.
Thank you for letting us know that. Would you speak louder? And is there any way we can get the microphones sort of turned up a little bit?
I pulled it up too, so.
You're going to talk louder? Okay.
I'll try. Mayor, Council, this is a P80 amendment for the Palm Valley.
Stop there. Could you hear that? No. Okay, so let's get a little technical help here and get it turned up, please, before we progress. Because we have a lot of people speaking, and I don't want that to...
Hold this in your hand.
I have to hold it?
Yeah, you have to hold it. Yeah. Try that.
So this is a hand microphone, so you want to keep it close to you so that you can be heard.
Mayor, is that better?
I'm asking the girl back there. Is that better? Say something.
Is this louder?
Yes. Perfect.
This PAD approved 2005, 2007. It's 6 phases, approximately 750 acres. It is general commercial and light industrial. This is just a context map. The PAD is outlined in red. Around it, we have Palm Valley 5, Pebble Creek, County to the north, Luke Air Force Base, the Arizona Motorsports Park to the northeast. We have our existing Sub-Zero REI Dix here, and this is the 303 bisecting north-south through the PAD. To the west, we have some ag land here, and we have the Sedea community. This is the general plan land use map. Again, the PAD is outlined in this red boundary. What I'd like to show with this exhibit is that the land uses within the PAD are predominantly commercial, business and commerce, this tan color, or industrial, the purple. Also surrounding the PAD, we have industrial uses here planned to the west and to the south. The yellow is residential. Per the general plan, the industrial land use, we have office, industrial, business park uses. Those are appropriate, as along with support commercial. In the business and commerce land use district, all types of commercial are appropriate, offices, also light industrial, warehousing, and distribution. This exhibit, again, kind of like the land use map, just shows the uses of the property. 303 here. We have light industrial planned for this area here. The residential is yellow. Commercial areas are red. Roadways within the area, PAD, PV 303 outlined with the dashed. We have the 303 through there. We have several major arterials, Indian School Road, east-west, Camelback. We have Cotton, north-south. Also within the area, Luke Air Force Base has a significant impact. With the base up here, we have the clear zone, and then we have APZ 1 and 2. And as you can see, these are the 4 parcels that we'll talk about tonight. You can see that APZ 1 and 2 impacts 3 of the 4. And what that means is APZ 1, the PAD was designed to be consistent with state statutes regarding Luke. So no buildings within APZ 1 unless specifically allowed by Luke. APZ 2, light industrial is okay. However, we do not want to see retail, eating and drinking places or assembly uses where we will have large gatherings of public. And then within the 65 LDN and higher noise contours, no residential, but the PAD is only proposing light industrial and commercial. The request tonight is to change those 4 parcels from general commercial to light industrial. It's about 246 acres, 15% of the overall PAD. Light industrial, per the PAD, includes warehouse, distribution, manufacturing, office. The general commercial had all kinds of retail, personal services, restaurants, and hotels. And because we are going a change of land use within a PAD, it does require us to go through the public process, Planning and Zoning Commission review, and City Council approval. These are the 4 amendment areas. I'll go through each. I'll zero in a little more on each of the four since they are spread out. But these are the four parcels proposed to change to light industrial. And I'll work from east to west. So the first one here is the East 3, 32 acres. Predominantly industrial and commercial around it. To the north, you have county. This is Camelback Road here. This is Saraville here. So 32 acres. The next one, 65 acres. This is in the East 2 section. And here we have Palm Valley 5, Pebble Creek. We have Indian School Road and Saraville here, 303. And this next slide, I wanted to show you here with this context because it'll come up later. This is looking northwest across the intersection of Saraville and Indian School. And just wanted to point out that the developer had put in several years ago an 80-foot channel for stormwater as well as landscape, and that runs along the north edge of Indian School and up a portion of Saraville. This is the West 2, 124 acres, 303 here right to the east, and then we have Pebble Creek across the freeway. To the west, additional industrial development proposed within PV 303. And to the north there is Sub-Zero. And this is the West 3 parcel, 25 acres, right here at Indian School and Citrus. To the east and south, we have another PV 303 parcel, industrial. Across the way here is ag, but again, it was industrial on the general plan land use map. To the north, we have a couple commercial parcels. Here, C2, about 20 acres. Sedea Commercial is about 16 acres. And then we have the Sedea community here to the northwest. Roughly from this property line to the nearest residential within Sedea is about 1,300 feet. And this is looking across northwest, across the intersection. And this is here, that C2 corner, about 20 acres, across Citrus and Indian School. This is the Sedea commercial parcel here. Again, about 1,600 acres. And again, it's about 1,300 feet to these houses here. Public participation, because we had to go through the public process with this land use change. We had a neighborhood meeting February 15th, Planning and Zoning Commission February 22nd, and then tonight's meeting. For the citizen review meeting, we did send out postcards to property owners within 500 feet of all four parcels. We also mailed them to the HOAs of the surrounding communities, Palm Valley, Pebble Creek, Sedea, as well as Luke, ADOT, Glendale, and the county, since we had those adjacent jurisdictions. We also did legal ads for citizen review and our public hearings, and we posted all four parcels with our public notice sign. After the P&Z hearing on the 22nd, we did see several inquiries from residents concerned about the request. As such, it was deemed appropriate to conduct additional public outreach. And some of the concerns that were voiced, expansion of the warehouse district and the traffic and noise that could result from that expansion. So the Tom van was deployed. We had Saturday, March 18th in the morning, as well as Wednesday, March 22nd in the afternoon. Had several people attend each of those meetings. Staff also attended the state HOA meeting on March 20th. Purpose of these meetings, answer questions, provide additional information on the request to try to address residents' concerns. Some of the feedback we received, staff did want to point out that we added 2 stipulations to the request. That's stipulations 3 and 4 that you saw in the ordinance. They speak to the building architecture, trying to encourage office and such on the corner there at Citrus and Indian School. Also additional edge treatments, a larger landscape buffer with trees and stuff, just to soften the edge. And that was based on resident feedback that we received about that corner. Staff, as we looked at this request, we did find the change to light industrial is consistent with the property's land use, with the industrial and the business and commerce land uses. Those land uses are appropriate for the type of uses that are proposed in the PAD. We do not have general industrial uses proposed. The heavy industry that are proposed, it's all light industrial, so those are consistent with the general plan. We find the light industrial is consistent with the loop-compatible land use overlay, again, because we're not promoting any kind of public assembly within the noise contours or any of the APZs. And looking at the surrounding area, a lot of it is planned or existing light industrial. The light industrial proposed with this request will be consistent with those uses, as well as any commercial uses planned in the area. We also find it will be compatible with the residential uses in the area. None of the 4 parcels are directly adjacent to any residential community. What we do have are separations and buffering, kind of like that landscape buffer along Indian School that we looked at. The roadways and the freeways are providing buffers in between the 2 adjacent land uses. Between the uses proposed also with this request, the light industrial, no general industrial, but they've limited to all light industrial. As we've seen, the manufacturing, the distribution, warehousing, it's all indoor type uses, so the emission of noise and air contaminants will not be a significant concern with what's proposed with the light industrial. For those reasons, Mayor, Council, staff is recommending approval of this request subject to stipulations, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. They are recommending approval as well. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We do have a number of cards tonight. In fact, I have 8 in my hand. So I'm going to just review this again. When you come up to speak, you're limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. So before you begin to speak, and we start that timing, identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and address. So I'm just going to call the cards as it was given to me in order. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize ahead of time. You can correct me when you come to the microphone. So Terry Candelaria. Yes, and pick up the small microphone. Does somebody want to... let's have someone up there that kind of briefs them how to use these microphones, okay, so we don't have this.
I'm Terry Candelaria, and I live at 18268 West Sells Drive here in Goodyear. Good evening, Mayor, Council, guests. I'm here tonight to help represent the Sadea community. Some of these folks are here tonight. Our homes are located at the northwest corner of Indian School and Citrus Roads. There's currently about 400 homes that are built and occupied with a planned build-out of over 1,000 homes that will represent over 3,000 Goodyear residents in the future. I have with me petitions signed by almost 200 of the residents of the Sadea community. We're asking the City Council to consider a no vote to the zoning change for the one small parcel, what Steve called West 3 of the 4 being discussed tonight, and that's the 25 acres that sits on the southeast corner of Citrus and Indian School. This 25 acres represents just 1.5% of the PV 303 1,600 acres that they show advertised. In this case, which is rare, I'm sure for you, we, the residents, were here first. This 25 acres that lays outside of the arrival and departure of Luke, by the way, if you look at that map, it's just outside, and the other commercial properties across the street, like 50 feet, also lay outside. So this 25 acres could provide a buffer from the rest of the very large parcel that's already zoned industrial at that corner. Leaving it zoned commercial could provide services that Goodyear residents can use, and it'll provide a very important buffer between the industrial site and our residential community, where homes are as close as about 1,000 feet, as Steve indicated. It'll help provide a safer intersection for our school buses and our commuters. It'll provide a buffer from the tractor trailer noise, the diesel truck smells that come with that, and even the theft with people coming into the area looking for scrap metal and pallets that are pretty consistent around warehouses. Leaving this small parcel zoned commercial will not impact PV 303's ability to build warehouses with plenty of parking, their required setbacks, and dock access. They have over 1,600 acres of property. Steve shows 1,750. The small parcel at the corner of Citrus and Indian School that they're asking to change for commercial to industrial is only 25 acres of that entire development. We're only asking for that small parcel to remain as currently zoned is a nice compromise to the Goodyear residents that will be impacted by this decision for decades to come. I ask you to vote no to the zoning change request on this fourth parcel and provide a winning solution for all stakeholders in this decision. Thank you for seriously considering the Sadea residents' concerns and requests. Vote no on the 25-acre parcel on the southeast corner of Indian School and Citrus. We look forward to your decision.
Thank you, Ms. Candelera. The next person is Gabriel Candelarian.
Okay, this is working, I can tell. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Gabriel Candelaria. I live at 18268 West Sells Drive, 85395 in Goodyear. As homeowners in Sedella area, most of us did our homework. We knew about the dairy farm west of us. We knew about Luke Air Force Base and the noise associated with it. We knew about the women's prison south of us. We also knew what the zoning was for the farmland around us. We did our homework before investing $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and in some cases $500,000 in our homes. Sunbelt also knew what they were buying and how it was zoned. Now Sunbelt wants the city to change the zoning to better their investment. These homes are our investment. We can't ask the city to change the zoning around us to better our investment. The zoning should not be changed just because Sunbelt wants to better their investment. Again, they knew what they were buying. The three parties involved in this zoning change request are the City of Goodyear, Sunbelt Development, and the homeowners at Sedea. We in Sedea are only concerned about the 25-acre lot located on the southeast corner of Indian School and Citrus Road. Sunbelt acreage is about 1,600 acres. And that one photo of that intersection that showed the Sedea development, that's a pretty misleading photo. You can barely tell that there's houses back there. If you actually go there, you can definitely see that there are homes there. It's a lot closer than what that picture portrayed. Again, they knew what the lands was zoned for. The three parties involved in this request are the City of Goodyear, Sunbelt Development, and the homeowners in Sedea. We in Sedea are only concerned with the 25-acre lot located on the southern corner of Indian School Road and Citrus Road. Sunbelt acreage is about 1,600 acres. If you vote to change the zoning, you'll create a win-win-lose situation. The city wins their economic development. Sunbelt wins their better investment, but the homeowners lose with the placement of warehouses that much closer to our property. If you vote to deny this one small lot, you create a win-win-win for the homeowners. Win in that we keep the area zoned as is, as we were told it would be. The city wins, it still gets its economic development. Sunbelt wins, they still get to have 1,575 acres to develop as they wish. Please vote no on this one small 25-acre parcel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person is Cindy Lithium. Is it close enough? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But you may correct me
That's
publicly.
right. My name is Cindy Linthicum, and I live at 4050 North. Can everybody hear me? I live at 4050 North, 162nd Drive, Goodyear, Arizona, in Pebble Creek. To ask you to vote no, it's already there. And the picture that he took of the corner of Cerebell and Indian School, again, is very misleading. My house, my backyard, my back door is 100 feet from that intersection where you're going to have thousands of semis stopping. I called one time and asked about all the traffic that's going to come through there, and they had told me that they're going to use Camelback as the truck route. But Camelback's not developed. So they're going to use Indian School and Cerebell. So not only am I going to get the traffic from everybody going to 303, I'm going to get hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of semis that are going to be coming to that light 100 feet from my door. That new building that is there is 61 docking garages on each side. And if you look at Dick's, they have the same thing, and they have 500 semis sitting out there. So you're going to have that on that one building on each side, all these semis. And where are they going through? They're going through Indian School. Why was not Camelback developed first if that's going to be the trucking route? I don't get it. And we want to know what you're going to do about the noise abatement plan. Right now, the building's not occupied. So once that building gets occupied, and then another building comes next to it, another building on the other side, and then buildings probably in front of it because there's enough room. I mean, we have to close our doors to even listen to the TV, bad enough with the jets. Now we're going to have the semis, the people that go to work there. And you need to see an accurate picture of the other half of that corner, just not the corner of looking at the buildings, but the corner of the two subdivisions that are there. You're going to have increased noise, dirt, traffic. Right now, I wake up in the middle of the night to beep, beep, beep. I mean, I don't even get to sleep at night because I hear noises. So it's just going to increase fivefold, I was told. You have anything to say?
I would like to know what light industrial is. I'm Susan Becker.
Can't hear you.
I don't know.
Hey, settle down there. Jesus.
Okay. Better now?
Yes.
Susan Becker, 4016 North 162nd Drive. I'm here to support Cindy. My question is, what is light industrial?
And what are buffers? I want to know what buffers you're going to put so we don't hear that noise. And right as of now, they have a wall outside where the semi trucks are going to be, but that wall is so low, we're going to see all that from our homes. We've invested hundreds of thousands into our homes, which are going to now lose value. And I didn't move to Pebble Creek for that.
Thank you very much. And Steve, would you come forth and answer the last question about what it is?
Mayor, Council, light industrial as proposed in the PAD is probably the best way to describe it would be warehousing, distribution, back office, manufacturing.
Thank you. Did you hear that?
I heard it. I need to know what is manufacturing? What are you going to make?
Mayor, Council, at this point, I don't have the details for a good picture of what could be developed. We can look at the existing businesses on the west side of the 303. We have Sub-Zero, we have REI, we have Dick's Sporting Goods. That would be a good example of warehousing, distribution, manufacturing. They also have office components to those uses. So those are the types of things, when we say light industrial, that would be proposed.
All right. Thank you very much. The next person is Candice Duran.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Can everybody hear me? Yes?
No, we cannot hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Hi, everybody tonight. Just some concerns that we had that when we first purchased our house, I know that, like the gentleman said previously, that we all knew what we were getting into. We all knew what we were signing up for, and we're okay with it. We're great. We love it. But now that that section is being advertised as an industrial park, we moved to the outskirts to be on the outskirts. If I wanted to live in the city, I would have stayed in LA. I would have moved to Phoenix if I wanted to stay in the city. But now we're going to be surrounded with more warehouses. We don't need the warehouses. I understand that there's progress. Progress is great. But you have Odyssey Preparatory Academy. Their bus stop is right there off of the Indian School and Sedalia Parkway. So now you have the morning traffic and you have afternoon traffic. So you're going to give us more traffic and warehouses that we don't need and we didn't agree to. So I get that everyone needs to make a profit, but as a community itself, why were we never told about the probability of this turning into industrial, of this turning into when you go down or you're going on your bike, that you're going to run into warehouses. And we even have biking races that were there. So it's going to happen to that. We already have shut down for the bikers to race, so now we're going to shut down and have more traffic because now we have more warehouses and we have more trucks coming through. Like we have racers that race their cars up and down Citrus. So now we have the racers in the middle of the night, and now we're going to have truckers in the middle of the night. So we're going to have more noise. Also, the buildings are not small buildings. They're 4,000 square feet to almost 2 million square feet. What type of business are we trying to attract? Are we going for those huge businesses? If that is so, then they're going to be trucking constantly through our neighborhoods. And also it's going to be 63% of warehouse and industrial and distribution. So if you're not going to give us the commercial on this side, we would have to go through all of the warehouses to get to a store. So now we have to still go further out to get to a store instead of it being somewhat equal to commercial, which is only 14% of retail right here, and the rest of it's going to be warehouses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Mulaney.
Just hold it up.
Yes, we can hear
Can you hear me now? Okay, my name's John Mulaney, and I won the trifecta here. I have a home in Palm Valley Phase 5 right now, and we're building a home in Sedalia. And I have to tell you, if there were 2 postcards sent out to us in February, we didn't get them. So anyway, I've got some issues that I'd like to talk about. There is already traffic congestion, and the pictures that you saw at Indian School and Citrus and the other places aren't representative of what that traffic looks like in the morning going east and west. I believe that the semi-trailer traffic there is going to substantially aggravate that problem. We've already got air quality issues in the area so that we have no burn days. We've got people with allergy problems and haze conditions regularly. These warehouses are really distribution centers and light manufacturing, assembly, and pick-pack operations, and they're going to wind up operating 3 shifts a day. The additional diesel traffic is going to add a whole lot of diesel exhaust to the air and certainly aggravate the air quality issues there. And when we asked about studies when we went to the van on March 22nd, we were basically told that this was going to be done after the fact. So I'm kind of curious about the logic there. Also, you know, as any of us can see driving by these places, they're huge and they are distribution centers. I'm just wondering how much hazardous materials are going to be stored in those facilities. And I understand from talking to the people at the van that the fire department's going to be responsible for enforcing and overseeing the regulatory compliance with that and safety and dealing with any spills, discharges, or fires. And I'm wondering how well we're managing the fire staff in that regard, training and so forth to protect us. We've got houses that are going to be a few hundred feet away from these places. And, you know, I'm just an ordinary guy. I think about the fertilizer fire in Waco, Texas, and Bhopal, India, and I'm wondering what's our evacuation plan and where are we going to be housed? The property at Citrus and Indian School was zoned commercial for a reason, and when we bought the property in Sedalia there, you know, we knew that, and we expected that there would be restaurants and commercial stores and stuff like that there. And I guess we have to assume now that we're going to have to go to Buckeye or McDowell and Palm Valley Parkway in order to get something out. Anyway, my current home's in Palm Valley Phase 5, and we're building in Sedalia. And we like living here, but we're really against this change. and I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't do a better job before I made the decision to buy. I'm sorry, I went over. Bye.
That's quite all right. Thank you very much. William Gasson.
William Gaston, 15925 West Glen Rosa Avenue, 85395. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, William Gasque, 15925 West Glen Rosa Avenue, 85395. Thank you for having us here, Mayor Lord and council members. I am here in support of the rezoning effort. I believe that Goodyear needs good, high-quality jobs, and as a resident and someone who drives across the valley for work, I really would like our residents to be able to stay here and not have to battle the traffic on I-10. I believe that the highest and best use of those properties surrounding the Luke Accident Protection Zone, I believe three of the four of those parcels were overlapping slightly into the Accident Protection Zone for Luke, and I think the highest and best use probably is light industrial. I believe you can alleviate some of the traffic concerns in particular on parcel 2 at the northwest corner of Indian School and Saraville by having access to Indian School instead of Saraville. And I understand that would come out during the design of the project. Likewise, the landscape berm in the buffer area, the buffer area, I think if you put a landscape berm there, that would go a long ways toward alleviating some of the concerns with whether it's light pollution, noise pollution, and that type of thing, and some of the visibility. And finally, I believe that the hallmark of a successful development, successful developments bring more traffic. That's a fact. And as we all know, developers, when you have more traffic and they build a development, they expand the adjacent roadways. So some of the adjacent roadways will not be 2-lane like they are now. They will be expanded to handle the increased traffic. And as a professional engineer, I can tell you that if you put that traffic onto Indian School instead of Saraville, I think those trucks would go take the Indian School exit and entrance onto 303 instead of going up to Camelback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sean Walters.
Okay, I'm not sure which one is the microphone. I'm sorry.
One.
Oh, I got it right here? Okay, great. Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Sean Walters. I'm with Sunbelt Holdings, 6720 North Scottsdale Road. I appreciate you giving us the time to talk about our project tonight. I don't know, is my slideshow? Oh, there it is, queued up perfectly. I'm just going to buzz through this really quickly. We've owned the property. We purchased the property from Suncor in 2010, so we've owned it for almost 7 years now. We've been actively working to brand the community, to bring high-quality development. We work closely with you all and your staff to accomplish that. And we're really proud of what's going on in the community and look forward to moving forward. Let's see. Do I click?
Would you like some assistance on that?
No, I can get it. I can get it now. It just took me a second. I apologize. First of all, Suncor originally built this building that's located at Cotton and Indian School. When we purchased the property from them, we purchased the building. We were fortunate to get Sub-Zero Wolf interested. They were looking to relocate from Phoenix. They moved out and purchased the property in 2010. They subsequently built it out. They've expanded it last year. It's now a 700,000 square foot state-of-the-art manufacturing facility. Sub-Zero invested $120 million into this project. They employ about 500 people, and they make over half of the refrigeration product lines that they sell worldwide in this facility. Example, manufacturing. Dick's Sporting Goods came to us in 2011. Again, we worked together. They were looking around the Western United States for a location for a Western distribution center. We worked again closely with you. And we partnered with Merit Partners to build this facility for them. It is approximately 720,000 square feet. It's a Class A distribution center. They invested about $55 million in the project. They have about 240 team members that work there at Dick's Sporting Goods. And they recently purchased land just to the west. They're going to expand this facility soon. 2015, a similar story with REI, Recreational Enterprises Incorporated. They were interested in a West Coast distribution omni-channel facility. Again, we partnered with Merit Partners and built this 440,000 square foot. This is really a state-of-the-art facility for them. Let's see if I can roll it back up. There we go. Sorry. As far as we know, this is the only LEED Platinum certified zero net energy distribution facility in the world. It's in Goodyear in PV 303. REI invested about $70 million in this facility and employ about 200 workers.
Sean, I'm sorry, I have to treat you just as I did the other people that came forth. So your time is up. So if there's any other questions that come up from council, we'll bring him back up. All right? Is that helpful to you? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I want to thank the speakers that came up. It's very difficult to come up before us. I've done that before, and you get very nervous, and it's hard to bring your thoughts together, but you did a good job, and I appreciate that. So at this, I'm going to close the public hearing. And will the city clerk please read Resolution 17-1796 by title only, please?
Adopt resolution number 17-1796 declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk entitled PV 303, Planned Area Development dated February 2017, and that certain document titled PV 303, Underlining Zoning dated January 13, 2017.
Thank you very much. Could I please have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I heard a motion by Councilman Holman and a second by Councilman Osborne. All right, we're up for council discussion. I think, let me see when Bill was leaving. Are you still there, Bill?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to start off with you because I know you're going to be leaving very soon in the time difference. So go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. Mayor, I have questions for Sean.
Okay.
If he would be able to come back up. Let me know when you get there.
I'm here.
Okay. So you were describing some of the activity that Sunbelt has done in the area. And I think it's important for everyone to understand in its totality what Sunbelt holds, what Sunbelt has done, and what Sunbelt envisions for the future in that area. Just through some very generic conversations that we've had regarding economic development opportunities in the city, I think you might have some more specificity for that. Is it possible for you to share that with, or share the what you've done and where you've gone, or where you intend to go with this property?
Mayor Lord, Councilmember Stipp, absolutely. I apologize. I was kind of running through my slideshow there and didn't make it, but I don't have an overall exhibit. There was one earlier up that shows the 1,600 acres. That's PV 303. What we envision that to be is the premier business park in the Southwest. It will ultimately have up to 20 million square feet of a combination of the manufacturing that you've seen, the distribution that you've seen, back office, office product, and a retail mix. As I said, we've been working on marketing it and selling it for 7 years now. We envision it's going to take some time to build out, but ultimately it'll have that mix. And as was noted kind of in the staff report, it is a property that sits under the noise contours and the APZ for Luke Air Force Base. We're huge supporters of Luke Air Force Base. And at the same time, so we work closely with them to come up with uses that are compatible. And that's how the park's been designed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I appreciate that. You guys are also in the commercial development business in other parcels in the city. Can you talk a little bit about outlying commercial development opportunities? And we've had this happen before where Suncor, who was the original zoning company, zoned a bunch of little, what I refer to as pocket commercial sites within the city. Can you talk about what the commercial development potentials look like for those small sites, or a site perhaps out on the edge of your location there?
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, we did, in addition to purchasing the 1,600 acres at PV 303, the business park, we also purchased a number of commercial sites from Suncor that are located closer to the I-10 freeway along Bullard. And we've been marketing those. Actually, Tommy Woods, who's with Colliers International, is here with me this evening. He's been marketing those properties for us, and I thought he could give a better idea or better kind of update on the retail market in general, and then also specifically to the properties that we have along I-10 around the mall, and then also further out.
Yeah, I think I'd love to hear that, especially given that we had a presentation earlier this evening, and I don't know how many people in the audience were around to hear the economic development discussion that we had, but I think that would be beneficial for this before I get into specific questions about this location.
Mayor, Tommy Woods, Colliers International on 2390 East Camelback Road, Phoenix, Arizona. Can I be heard? Okay, good, thanks. And I got to say, this guy standing right here or over here, Dave Scholl, who was with Westcor, now Vintage Partners, we should have kept him here because he's a retail expert. He could have answered more questions than I could ever answer. But I was Suncor's broker before Sunbelt bought their property. I was involved at Litchfield and McDowell on the Target Michaels project. And then we took the old Wigwam outlet and converted it into a power center with Ross and Barnes & Noble and some restaurants. We moved over, I did with Suncor, to Bullard and McDowell. We did the P.F. Chang's and the Red Robin. We sold a piece to Drury Hotels that hasn't built yet. And then the world kind of ended in 2007, 2008 for retail. And obviously retail comes with residential. When the residential comes back, then you've got a reason to build retail development. With that, we have a listing with Sunbelt at the balance of that 35 acres at I-10 and Bullard. And we're talking to users right now. We hope to put together a shopping center there and some good retail that will bring some sales tax to the city. There are different little parcels around, and a couple of them involve these four pieces that I told Sean. This is my opinion. And because with retail across the country, you're seeing a downturn. And you read it with the B malls and with Sears and Penney's. But even in the strip retail and power center business, when we build them again, we won't build 800,000 square feet or 1 million square feet. We'll be lucky if we build 250 or 300,000 square feet because the boxes have gotten smaller and the number of retailers have shrunk. So with that too, when you go out to like Citrus, it's just going to be a while before you'll ever have the demand and the traffic count and the population to have restaurants and your normal retail. And I get it. If I was living there too, I'd like a nice restaurant and some shopping to go with it. But I think that you really need to look at with office and industrial and stuff, it's a quality of life. With retail, there's going to be a scorecard at some point with those retailers or those restaurants. They're going to do the volume that's going to allow them to stay and be successful. So you never want to build and not have them make it, not have the traffic be there or the population or the traffic count. And I feel like that's in some of the cases here, I don't see the best use being retail for those properties for that reason.
Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate the comments. I think one of the things that we have found over the last few years anyway, from retail partners and people who are trying to develop the land, is that new retail spaces away from what we would consider a normal power center. And for us, that's going to be the Estrella Parkway, Pebble Creek Parkway corridor, the McDowell corridor, and then the Litchfield corridor, that we're going to struggle for a long period of time to fill those with retail spaces. So hearing the residents' concerns about, geez, we're giving up retail space, I think we have to be realistic about what is happening in the market today. And I know we've gone through this a couple of times when we rezoned smaller commercial properties, that everyone's afraid that we're going to lose when we give up that retail space. But having said that, Sunbelt owns the property. Sunbelt has certain rights to develop that property. And we've not talked at all tonight about their property owner rights to seek a change of zoning that allows them to develop that property. And I realize that we're talking about, well, what about my rights as a resident? What about my rights as a homeowner? And that's why we put a general plan in place, and we look and we say, are these things compatible with that general plan, to make sure that that we can have those uses, which is what the zoning drives, that's compatible with that. And I think at the end of the day, we have to really examine that and say, look, we're talking about this 25 or 35 acre parcel that is compatible. It's compatible with the rest of the zoning around it. There are what are referred to as the buffer, so the buffer of the intersection, the buffer of the 1,000 feet, the stipulations that are put in place to ensure that we're not infringing upon that, upon your property rights, so that we can have property owners coexist with one another. And I think that's an important part, that as a homeowner and as a resident, we lose sight of that. We're concerned about our parcel and our investment, and we say, hey, they're a big company, they can suck up 25 acres. From a city council perspective, I think it's important for us to look at how are we growing our city in a balanced way. Are we doing only residential? Are we doing only retail? Are we doing only big box warehouses? And we're not. We've got warehousing, we've got manufacturing, we've got retail, we've got aerospace, we've got an airport, we've got a ballpark. I mean, we're trying to provide for a community that will be 600,000 people after all of us are gone, and to provide that legwork. So from a council perspective, at least for me, it's not a matter of not listening to the residents, because I think that's the easy way to go, say, well, no one's listening. But the true reality of it is we have to look at what is best for the entire community, not just the Sedea community or the Palm Valley community or the Pebble Creek community. It's what are we doing for everybody? And if we can bring jobs and we can keep people from traveling down to Phoenix or out to Chandler for work, then that will bring additional rooftops, which will then bring additional retail, which will then bring the thing we're all waiting for, is that super mall area, and whatever that looks like, because the face of the mall is changing. So it's one step that leads to the other, and I can absolutely, sympathize with your emotional feeling, but having to look at this from a logical perspective, I have to support the zoning request based on that. And that concludes my comments. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next on the council, Councilman Pizzillo.
Am I up? Question for Sean. Can we pull up the actual corner? Can somebody on the
I'm sorry, what did you ask for?
pull up the? Here he comes, Steve. Can you pull it up so I can see the corner that you had?
Laney, could we have the staff presentation?
Oops.
That'll work. Here's my question, Sean. Some of the questions that came up from the general public was traffic. And I think we had talked about the mitigation of the traffic and the buffer. And I believe one of the engineers that came up earlier talking about the design of the actual structure that will end up going on there, try to mitigate traffic from going towards the homes or up along the strip close to Indian School. How might you address that particular issue whenever we land somebody, or if you land somebody in that spot?
Mayor Lord, Councilmember Pizzillo, thank you for the question. I want to kind of start out by saying, first of all, as was noted earlier, along with this development, the infrastructure will get installed with these projects. So ultimately, Indian School Road, as you know, is a major arterial. So the half street on the south side will be 3 lanes. Ultimately, when the north side gets developed, it'll be the same. Same thing on Citrus, major arterial as well. As Indian School has been completed, there will be additional improvements that will occur over on the east side with the development there. I also want to note that for Sunbelt Holdings, this is our first industrial master plan, if you will. There's probably not a lot of them in the country, but this is our first. We're historically a residential master plan community developer. We take a lot of pride in what we do. We take a lot of pride in our communities, whether it's Vistancia or Power Ranch or Sonoran Foothills. We've done McDowell Mountain Ranch. We've done a number of them in the valley, and we're very proud of the product when we leave. That was why part of the reason I wanted to show the buildings. I wanted to show, and I was getting to kind of some of our mitigation. One of the stipulations that we worked with staff on was ultimately when a building does go in at the corner of Indian School and Citrus, that it would have appropriate articulation and elements on the building, give it more of a human scale, oriented toward the corner. We did work on the additional landscape buffers that would further enhance that intersection. At the end of the day, our interest, I think again, the reason I showed those buildings up front is we're very proud of the way those buildings look. I don't think they look like warehouses or distribution centers as you would normally think of them. And our commitment, we retain design review approval throughout the project as Sunbelt Holdings as the master developer. And our commitment to a product that's going to enhance the community and be respectful of the neighbors and buffer appropriately. It's very important to us, and I'll say that tonight, and I'll stand behind that further as we go into design. I don't have a design for that site today, so I can't show one to you and say this is exactly what we planned. But I think with the stipulations that the staff has provided, we've agreed with, I think that we can certainly enhance the look of the building on that corner. Does that answer your question?
Well, part of it, the traffic mitigation
traffic.
that you had shared as far as trying to direct truck traffic away.
Sure, I had another exhibit. I apologize, it got cut off when I got there, but
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
It just, when you do this, I have to look at both sides.
I
and
totally understand.
Okay.
I'm trying not to protest too much. But we have a signage program that we started out there, this directional signage to provide for truck drivers to tell them where to go, specifically to this facility or that facility. In hearing the concerns from the community and the desire, obviously, not to have truck traffic in their neighborhoods, we're proposing that we increase that signage program, make it more robust, add signs, and then actually add placards on those signs that provide the most direct routes from the property to I-10 and to 303, so the truck drivers, in combination with their GPS, aren't straying out of the community, but they're immediately getting back to the freeways as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you.
Councilman Osborne.
Thank you. Okay, so some will be, Sean, you can sit down for a moment. Thank you. Well, actually, I do have one question because I'm of understanding how this is going on, because I know you came up as a speaker, but are you not the applicant for this change? So I guess I'm not understanding.
Because I cut him off at there.
Why
Because-
you can't
all right,
finish your.
But I knew he would come back up and we could have him finish where the citizen couldn't do that. So I chose
Okay.
that as a mayor.
Okay.
And I don't think I broke any really rules, did I?
Okay.
And that's why I made the decision I
Okay,
did.
that's
because
that. I'm just
if I'm
wondering
sitting
how much
out in the
longer
audience
more you
as,
have.
from a
I think I've gotten to it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Thank
why I
you.
did it. I knew you would be. I knew someone was going to ask you back up.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you. So go ahead and sit down because I'll get to you. Thank you. So Steve, this will be more staff based. First of all, for our citizens, I will say that I appreciate you being here. You know, a lot of times you don't see our citizens, and they come because it's something that's, very important to them, and it's usually not something they're very happy about, but I appreciate you coming. I've been in this town 21 years, and I can tell you there's been a lot of change. I think you all realize that. I was in your neighborhood this weekend, just yesterday, so I've seen the corner. You don't have to worry that you feel that it's a misrepresentation. I've been there. I was there. I was at your community, and I understand because from 6 years of being on planning and zoning myself and 10 on this council, I can tell you I know we've had many times where the residential or commercial butt heads or commercial and industrial. I understand it, and I do believe that we've always done our best to do the buffering between residential and commercial and industrial. Questions that were asked were very important, because it's an unknown. What does this mean to where I live? Is it safe? What's the traffic going to be like? I mean, those are valid questions and concerns, and I understand
Excuse me. Now, I've tried to treat everything fair, and as someone in the audience, you are not allowed to do that. We had the public hearing so that you could say your position, and that's the way it runs. So if it continues in the audience, I have the opportunity to say, if you can't sit and just listen at this point, then you may want to do something else. So that's just the way the rules run when you're running a meeting, and that's what I'm going to stick to. So I gave you the time. I gave all the people time to come up. I didn't say, there's 8 of you, I want only 4 of you to come. I had that choice. I did not do that. So if the audience would please be still. And even on the clapping, I could have stopped you because we don't allow cheering and clapping when we're coming to a meeting like this. But I chose to let you do that tonight because I know you came here with your heart about what you wanted. And I decided I would make that decision, just like I cut off the developer. I did that for a purpose, and you saw a council person question me that I did something wrong, or maybe why did I change it? I changed it because I'm the mayor, and I have a possibility of doing that in meetings. But it is a rule in the meeting that I cannot allow shouting or speaking up or raising hands or clapping during this presentation, all right? I appreciate your emotion, but that's the way it is. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. So what I'm looking for is, we do want win-wins, and there's not always going to be that way. But my biggest concern is making sure that we're listening to landowners on both sides because they all have rights, and doing what we can as a council to mitigate the impacts. And I think something I feel good about is the fact that I do see the standard of quality that we all insist upon in this city, and I see that in this developer. I think they've proven that, so I do feel good about this. But the things that I specifically would like to know, Steve, and I know you've touched upon them, but I'm going to kind of read my list as I visualize this. The softening of that corner with setbacks, with landscaping, with an office frontage look. So it appears more office complex rather than industrial. Councilmember Pizzillo
did touch on the traffic diversion, being, away from the residential areas. How is that going to be protected with signage, with even, no truck traffic signage, whatever that may be? How will that be mitigated, and how will that be circulated around? And I know you don't have, obviously, a site plan yet of what this would be, but those were the things that, I would want stipulated, so we know that we are protecting our citizens and the residents of that area by having these hard stipulations that will run with this land, regardless of, who's the owner of it. They have to adhere to what we're telling it to be. So signage for wayfinding, things like that. And, I know we are focused kind of on that 25 acres that's there next to Sadea, but the other one I'm also watching over is the one that's next to Palm Valley. The other, and I don't think you didn't number them, I don't think. Is that? Yes, I think you're showing it right there on Saraville. That's another one that, the truck traffic, all those kinds of things have to be the best they can mitigated away from the residential area. Having those softenings with the buffers and looking at that. Now, in this type of thing, you always see those signs that say, no Jake breaks. I don't know if that actually happens in something like this, but maybe that's something that we have to look at. Maybe that's only on freeways that I see those, but that would be something I'd be thinking about. The other thing would be the door bays. Where are they facing? Obviously we don't want these facing towards the residential areas. And we've had those stipulated times before and in our industrial standards about, those doors, especially around residential. Let's see. Some of the usage, the question came, what does light industrial mean? And versus hard industrial. If you were to give a few examples, maybe that would be helpful. But maybe there's things that we've already stated that we don't want in light industrial areas. Like, if we were to say, we want to make sure that this isn't a large automotive usage area. We want to make sure that this is not a marijuana growing facility. I mean, those are things that a residential, neighborhood would be concerned about. So making sure that some of those uses are prohibited in that area. And lastly, I will tell you as a retailer, everything that was stated about retail is true. And this is, it's going to be, you already have 2 commercial areas that it's going to take a while to even fill up. But what's also interesting that as the morphing of retail has changed, something that has also come up that's a question, they look at rooftops, they look at density, they look at income levels, they look at jobs, but something else they look at is what's the daytime population? Well, if you're going to be putting in some of this industrial, that may help bring in some more of the commercial for your neighborhood of the things you do want. So because those daytime jobs are there, they're not driving down the I-10 to go to the East Valley. They're here in your neighborhood, those jobs, which then may help bring some commercial to your area. So those are the things that I'm a little concerned on, but I do believe that the quality's here. I do believe I do believe in Sunbelt is watching over what happens. That's all I have to say.
So this side, Vice Mayor Loretano.
I have a couple questions. On the aerial of the whole photo, it was up there a second ago. Sorry, I'm making you go through the whole thing. It was the one that had all the pieces on it. It's I've got it on my little map here, the one with like all the pieces on it. It just came out, it was on my program, it's just aerial map. No, it's only got one. There's one that has them all.
Oh, all four
with the red pieces in
it's
the red.
Like
you don't have that one?
I think we saw it.
Was that Sean's?
It's in our presentation.
Can you get the slide number? No, that's not it.
It's just separate, as a separate. Yeah, it's this one here. I don't know.
It's right here. That's not it. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. It doesn't have a slide number. Photo.
See, that's a good suggestion. Put a number on those.
It's page 1 of 1. So.
And then we can refer to them.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay. Where the one on Citrus, to the west of that, what is that corner? It said, on one of them it said ag. Is that slated to always be ag, or what is that slated in that whole corner?
Mayor, Council, this corner here, it is currently zoned ag right now. The general plan has it for industrial. So an industrial LI1 would be an appropriate zoning classification for this, basically this whole quarter section or section here. It's currently agricultural uses right now, farm fields, animals currently right now. But it does zoned ag, but with an industrial land use in the general plan.
Okay, and that would be light industrial. That wouldn't be heavy industrial in the general plan.
The industrial category in the general plan, I1 and I2, are appropriate. Both of those zoning, the light and the general, are appropriate in the industrial land use category. However, the PAD, since it is close to residential, the general plan also talks about I1 is the preferred. That's the appropriate category when you're near residential, because that acts as a buffer in between residential and commercial and the heavier industry. The light industry is considered a buffer.
Okay, so that would probably at someday be a buffer as well.
That would probably be a good probability.
And then the one closest to the community over here, diagonal off of Citrus, that's the commercial, right?
Mayor, Council, yes, both of these are commercial. This is the Sedea commercial, about 16 acres. This one is straight hard zone C2, right here about 20 acres.
And over the one over here, where is the is there additional commercial around this one? The one over to, I'm sorry, I'm pointing because I'm pointing where he is. The SR, State Route 303, the one, go to your, there you go. See, I'm just following along with you there. Is there commercial around there?
Mayor, council members, yes, this triangular piece here is commercial, as well as this piece here.
Okay. And I share Councilmember Osborne's concerns about, first of all, the buffering. I think that's really important. I think they've done a really good job around Dick's Sporting Goods having that buffering and the front office look. So I would really like us to work with the developers to make sure that what faces the residents is not the back of trucks. I think that's very important to everybody. They've always done a high quality product. When I look at, Dick's Sporting Goods, when I look at REI, Sub-Zero, they do have a very nice aesthetic look. I also really do understand the desire for more retail. And I don't know how many people were actually here earlier hearing about just the general overview. We had about a 2-hour work session discussing retail. I live in an area that has very limited retail, and we have lots of residents in our area who would like more retail, so I really do understand that. But as you can see, there was the aerial map with all the retail that you had, how it's clustered in certain areas, and it's not going to leapfrog. So I really do understand that, and I am of the hope, from what we've learned from our other work session and the ones we've had in the past, that when you bring the jobs there, the retail is actually more likely going to come closer to some of these parcels, because that is going to actually start bringing, they're going to have that circle of daytime jobs and that circle of people there. So I think that will probably help maybe spur and add on to the residential portion and get some of that community retail there. I am also really concerned about, we've had some other areas of the city where we've had some truck traffic issues. I don't know if we can work on a truck route or maintain a truck route. All of these parcels apparently have, and I assume that's why they want to switch the zoning, they have fairly easy access to the 303. So there shouldn't be any reason why trucks are going into the neighborhoods or near the neighborhoods at all. Can we designate a truck route? Can we make a designated truck route? Is that something we do, or just signage, or how do we do that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Vice Mayor Loretano. We have a city code that actually governs truck routes. And what it says that the city manager or his designee can determine which streets are to be truck routes and where trucks can be restricted or prohibited. So basically, staff has the ability to go in, look at these areas of concern, and determine where we need to where we need to make streets truck routes, or where we need to post the signs that say local deliveries only, no trucks. Then PD can enforce that.
We did that on Bullard
Such
when
as
we were
Bullard,
having
yes.
so many complaints.
So as these properties come online, our city manager and city staff can work with the neighborhoods and the properties.
That's correct.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. I appreciate that, Chief. I think it's going to be a good quality product, and I think there is a lot of apprehension because you're not quite sure what's going to be there. But a lot of this was zoned prior to the Great Recession, unfortunately, and we do have to be flexible. All the other projects in this area do have a really good feel to them. And I think if we can make sure we do the buffering, the four-sided architecture, and the truck traffic route, I think we can mitigate all the problems. And we need to make sure we communicate, work with the neighbors to make sure it works well.
Thank you. Councilman Campbell.
I've got a question, Steve, wherever you are, please. Yeah, just stay up for a few minutes. You don't happen to have any pictures of the berms from Mesa and from Gilbert, do you? You ought to have those in your back pocket.
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. I'm not sure the audience knows what a berm is, but a berm is, and this is a layman talking, is a pile of dirt that buffers away from the building, but it's all landscape and planted, and you can't see the building sometimes, even from the street, from the ones that I have personally seen. But to the audience, I walked Sadea 3 times this weekend. I know that corner. I was in the drainage area as well. And Pebble Creek, I live in Pebble Creek. I don't use the Saraville Gate very often because I live on the other side. But I understand your concerns there. And to the left of you, you've got an RV lot to contend with. And then to the left of that is just a wide open space that has been zoned, and heaven only knows what's going to go in there. But a lot of businesses can go into those areas that we can't stop because it's the proper usage of it. I don't have any idea what's going in on these corners. I have not been told, other than they wanted them rezoned in the event that they found someone that wanted to come into that area. So it's like arguing against an unknown. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it's going to bring to you. You're guessing it's going to be a lot of traffic. It can't be any hard. Well, it could be worse. But Indian School is a thoroughfare that is a direct access route from 303 to Bullard, Bullard to McDowell, and to Interstate 10. Just the traffic alone on Bullard has grown in excess of 200,000 cars. And it's just because we're growing and people know how to get around our city now. So in your stipulations, have you added additional stipulations that we're not aware of to this land usage? I heard you say something about, additional landscaping or the berms. What else has been placed on this property? Or on all of them, I guess, because although we're not really talking about 2 of them, we're only talking about 2 of them, but the other 2 we're not talking about, right? Okay. So are the same stipulations on both of those 2 pieces of property that we're talking about, the one at Citrus and Indian School and the one at Saraville and Indian School?
Mayor, council members, we had 2 additional stipulations on top of the design guidelines that they have to follow. And the design guidelines cover building architecture, landscaping,
Color, everything.
Correct. They are a robust set of design guidelines that staff back at the time worked with the property owner to have here. The two additional stipulations resulted from feedback from residents of Sedea. So that's why the two stipulations only cover that corner here. And those stipulations are the ones that require the additional landscaping with the berming. The thought is you're going to have a contoured landscaping, bermed up, down into retention, trees within all of that area with an additional width, and then the building architecture at the corner to add human scale elements, whether that's through office or if it's not office, then through architecture to bring the building down to a human scale.
All right. Are there stipulations on the entrance and exit, the egress and ingress of that building?
Not specifically, no, ma'am.
Okay. That's all I have right now, Steve. Thanks.
Councilman Holman?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I don't have a question for you, Steve, so you can take a deep breath. I just wanted to say that Council really agonizes over these decisions because we have several things to take into consideration: your comfort with your new home, and the livability, the quality of life there. I myself happen to live very, very close to I-10, and I'm very pleased to say that when my house was built, it was built with great sound resistance, and inside my home I can hear nothing. Of course, outside is a different story because it is rubberized, and so it makes it more livable, but I'm in full, as I think all of us are, I know all of us are, respect for what you have said here this evening and appreciate it. But we also have to realize, and it is a burden because we are making decisions that are going to last for decades and decades, not for just the next few years. And so it's going to impact our community. And one of the things that we hear often is we need a better quality of jobs and we need more of them. And so it's a delicate scale, but I just wanted you to understand that decisions like this are not taken lightly, and we do appreciate the input.
Thank you. Well, since I haven't spoken up again, I'll say a few words. We look at Goodyear as a place to work, to live, work, and play. So that's our goal. Okay, we want people to buy homes here. We want them to be able to acquire a job, a fairly good paying job, and then we want them to be able to play and have a good time. So that's how your city is designed. When you buy a home, and I was in that business, I sold new home development on the East Coast. And I used to tell my customers, this is going to sound really cruel, but I would say to them when they bought, I would give them their plat, and they'd say, well, what are my options? Your options are what your house is on. Zoning can change. I had communities that experienced a downturn in the 80s. And so we would build these big, big, beautiful, beautiful 4,000 square foot homes. And in that same community, when the downturn came, we lowered that to 2,000 to 1,500 homes in the same neighborhood. So it was quite controversial. I can tell you it didn't limit the value of the big homes. The big homes stayed. They sustained themselves. But what my point is that is zoning. And so zoning can be changed within certain confines, within certain rules. So when we look at this area, we have been working very hard, this council, in the last few years to bring in jobs. And it's unfortunate that warehousing has gotten such a bad name. And I would encourage you to register and take a tour of some of these warehouses, because these are actually giving quite high-paid jobs now. Some of them are giving enough income so when they graduate from college, a graduate of college, the warehouse person is making the same amount at that point in their career. Now, when the graduate extends in the career, it's more. It's not all of them, but they're very advanced now. They're very clean. So different when you walk a warehouse than when we never went in a warehouse. When it was all, your shoes would get dirty, but it isn't that way anymore. Now, on your property, 303 has been planned for years. We all knew it was coming in. When I bought in Pebble Creek, adjacent to Indian School, what was it, 1 lane then or 2 lanes, which is small. But I knew that would be a 4 lane, if not more eventually. Now, Bullard, as far as you're worrying about your streets, trucks are going down certain streets right now because we're repairing and enlarging and making alternative areas. 303 is really there to direct that traffic away from the city, to keep it off Indian School, to get it out to 303. That's why we work so hard at MAG and our staff and everybody to extend 303 south. And it's going to keep on extending. So all of those are going to contribute to the truck traffic being more organized. And like the chief said, in fact, we did it on Bullard, that the trucks all of a sudden decided they were going to go Bullard to Indian School. And we took care of that right away. Every now and then you'll see a truck wander. And when I see it, I try to get their license plate and turn them in. But so far I haven't been successful. But it will calm down. You know, I can't, as far as the people on Pebble Creek in that area where you purchased your home, I have no control over that. The developer develops, he decides where he wants to build the home, and then you as a homeowner have a choice of what home site you're going to build on and you're going to buy. So a little responsibility is on both shoulders, and it's very difficult when you get in situations like this. And I know people coming in that are new to the city hear the jets go over there because that's the contour area. And that is why we're not going to put a lot of commercial heavy companies where people are going to be in them, because it is under the Luke Air Force Base contour, many of that area. We purchased that as a city to protect Luke Air Force Base. We intentionally have done that in the past. So it's just a combination of a lot of things coming together. And is it going to make you feel better? No, because it is what it is. But I think that we've been very strategic. Our staff has been strategic. And I think from safety, from the police to our production team, to our community development, to our economic development, I think they really have not thought, they have encompassed everybody and their lifestyle to try to come out with the best plan for our city. And some of you were not here tonight for the economic development one. It was earlier. In order for us to get even eventually sometime in some of those neighborhoods a store, so we have to have more people. So we have to have more jobs that are going to bring people who are going to buy more houses. We do not have the density the other parts of the valley have, and so we have to strive for that to give you a better quality of life. So that's about, you have one more? All right, Councilman.
So, Steve, back to the stipulations. Looking at them on here, I see that there's 3. But I don't know, I mean, many of us have asked the questions regarding traffic and truck routes. And I don't know, it's not stipulated here. So I don't know if this is, this is the disadvantage of having 4 parcels all at once in one piece rather than looking individually and saying, we want this happening here and here. But how are we going to address that? Is it going to be when each individual item comes to us, or is it going to, can you please, discuss that a bit?
Mayor, council members, right now, as you well know, right now we're just looking at the land use. We don't have any site plans before us. We don't know what's going to develop. At the time we do have site planning, then that's a chance for us to look at driveway locations. The developer mentioned their directional signs to direct people to the freeway. At that time, we can work with them on locations of signage, driveways, the buffering, the architecture. We'll work more with the details of those stipulations that you mentioned.
So in other words, the story's not done yet. we're still, this is just the beginning. This is chapter 1, and then we'll be going into the other chapters.
But if you can look at what we've done on the other streets, we've had
Absolutely.
lots of complaints on Cedarville on the other side. With lots of complaints, and it was because of we can't repair every street and widen them at all at one time. So it takes time and progress to do that. But each time we inform the neighborhood what we're doing. Once the street is enlarged, it makes it more comfortable people, and it directs the traffic that shouldn't be there to another street. So it's just sort of a puzzle sometimes, but it all works out. All right, any other questions? All right, then we're going to have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? No. Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The 6-1.
Thank you very much. Now, the next page, we're going to have a separate vote on this. So would the city clerk please read Ordinance 17-1346 by title only, please?
Adopt ordinance number 17-1346, amending the final planned area development zoning for the PV 303 PAD to adopt the PV 303 final planned area development dated February 2017 and the PV 303 underlying zoning dated January 13, 2017 to change the land use on 4 parcels from C2 general commercial to I1 light industrial, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for corrections, severability, an effective date, and penalties.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Vice Mayor Loretano, a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for council discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go to 7.2. It's as a special use in zoning, any zoning open public hearing. Katie Wilson, Plan Manager, Katie.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. And I have a presentation. There it is. I do want to make a clarification that this public hearing for tonight is only for the zoning ordinance text amendment. So this is to create rules and regulations concerning the inert material landfill. We have received an application for a specific site. The property owner asked if they could submit an application at risk. We are not discussing that particular proposal tonight. That'll come before council at a separate meeting and will be notified separately. But the community is aware of this proposal, so I just want to be clear to anyone who might be listening that we're not discussing a specific proposal tonight. It's simply the zoning ordinance text amendment. So in the zoning ordinance text amendment, you saw a couple terms. One of those is a borrow pit. So when construction of I-10 happened, as we see, I-10, Interstate 10 is a raised freeway. In some communities, the interstates are lower than at grade. So when I-10 was constructed, a lot of material was needed to build that up. And so they actually went to private property owners and purchased dirt from those properties, and what's left behind is known as a borrow pit. This is an industry term. We know of one borrow pit that's at Roosevelt and 158th over near the Walmart area. And this is it's very difficult to see since it's a pit from the ground. There's another one that we know of at Cotton and I-10 by the old trotter track as well. And both of these were created to build Interstate 10. Those are the only two known existing public project borrow pits, but as we all know, the 303 is going to continue to be built. The State Route 30 is planned through the community, so it's certainly possible that more of these could be needed in the future as these future highways are constructed. So staff is proposing allowing these types of uses in any zoning district through a special use permit. And the reason this is a benefit is it keeps the underlying zoning. So you can see the one picture I showed you by the Walmart area, it's surrounded by a residential area. So for example, a sanitary landfill, you might want to zone it industrial because that use is going to be in existence for basically forever. Whereas this type of project is temporary. And I should back up. I noticed that I kind of did jump the gun here a little bit. So basically, we have these borrow pits, and one of the ways that we reclaim them is to fill them with material. And we call that an inert material landfill. And inert material differs from a sanitary landfill in that inert material is non-biodegradable. So when things biodegrade, that's when the obnoxious odors, methane gas is created. So these type of landfills are not related to a sanitary landfill in any way. It's basically a reclamation project, a grading project. So what these projects would do is accept material, so there's construction nearby, and they could bring dirt, concrete, sand, similar type materials. The type of materials that are permitted are regulated by the state, and then they would fill the pit with those types of materials. Now, what we would do through the special use permit process is create the specific regulations, such as hours of operations, any site conditions, such as screening, what's allowed to, how they fill it, and how often we inspect the area as they're filling it. All those things can be regulated through a special use permit. And that's the purpose of the special use permit, is to create the rules and regulations specific to a site. Because as you can imagine, the borrow pit that's over by the Walmart surrounded by residential may need to have different hours of operation than the borrow pit over by the trotter track that's surrounded by more commercial type area. So the special use permit allows us to keep the underlying zoning and then create rules and regulations that fit the area and character surrounding the area. The other good thing is it can be time limited. So you can say, well, we'll allow this special use permit and this inert material landfill for a period of 5 years or 10 years. We can use criteria to determine what that is. And so it allows you to say, maybe these rules are okay now, but in 5 years, development around the area could be different. And so we want to relook at those rules again at that time. And a special use permit goes through a very similar process to the zoning. So neighbors are invited. They can be a part of the process. So it still gives you that same type of process as a rezoning without making a permanent change to the underlying zoning. So this is just a slide. I know there's a lot of text, but this is the criteria that's in our zoning ordinance in which you would evaluate an application for this inert material landfill type of use. So it has to be desirable and necessary to the public convenience. It has to be found to be compatible with the surrounding area. It has to be in conformance with the general plan and not detrimental to surrounding properties. And again, we typically do that through creating stipulations to regulate the use. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody else like to speak? Would the city... Well, let me close this then, because we have to close the public hearing. So with the speakers finished, I'm closing the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read ordinance 17-1342 by title only?
Adopt ordinance 17-1342, amending Article 2 definitions and Article 4-1-2 special uses of the zoning ordinance as amended to add inert material landfill as a use that may be considered through a special use permit and create definitions, providing for corrections, severability, and effective date and penalties.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Councilman Vice Mayor, you can go ahead first.
I just have a couple.
I'm still here.
Oh, I'm sorry. The voice from the, I forgot from above. Excuse me, Councilman Stipp, you have the floor.
Thanks. Yeah, I haven't fallen asleep yet. Katie, I have one question. If we choose to if we choose not to do this, how does that whole process work then?
Did you understand this question?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Stipp. I believe I answer. If this is not approved by City Council, then what happens? And basically the answer is that the zoning ordinance currently does not address this use at all. So it is not a permitted use anywhere in the district. So if the council didn't wish to approve these regulations, they could direct staff to, investigate allowing it a different way, perhaps by rezoning, perhaps by special use permit, and only in industrial districts. Or council could choose to direct staff to not permit it anywhere, and then basically these pits would be left into the community, and it would be up to the property owners to just want to fill them for future development. The benefit of the inert material landfill is that they're able to charge these tipping fees to fill the area, so it gets filled much more quickly, because it helps the operation pencil out. And then once the area is filled, then they can develop the land. And so it's a benefit to the community.
Okay, so I know we don't want to talk about specific properties, et cetera, but it would seem to me that allowing a borrow pit in the middle or adjacent to a residential area doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems that by allowing it in any zoning area, we're going to invite that. The highway, we have a lot of residential up around the highway area or the proposed highways, and it just seems that this is going to invite that type of land use, which isn't really, they don't coexist. So I guess I'm looking for, when we get I apologize, it's very late where I'm at. If we get a special use permit, our ability to deny or to deny that is extremely limited. So what assurances by making this change do we have that we can actually affect a positive outcome for the residents of that area? Because I'm not worried about it out in the middle of nowhere or in an industrial area. I'm more worried about it around a residential.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Stipp. One assurance we wrote into the zoning ordinance text amendment is we specifically called it out as a public project borrow pit. So only those borrow pits that have been created through a public project, such as the building of I-10, future possibly building the 303 or the State Route 30. So we have a little more control. We can't regulate ADOT and where they create these, but they're a little bit more known. So somebody couldn't go into a residential neighborhood and then say sell dirt and then say, oh, now I have to create an inert material landfill. So as I said, there's 2 of these that are known in the community. So by limiting these to only the public project borrow pits, we're trying to limit the activity where this could happen.
And do we potentially are we going to be put in a position where we're going to say no to ADOT by doing that?
Thank you, Councilmember Stipp. We don't approve the creation of the borrow pit, is my understanding, when they're doing a construction project. Since they're a state agency, they have more authority over the city, is my understanding.
So they could put a borrow pit wherever they chose. So are we even able to do this through a special use permit?
I couldn't make it out.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember, I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. I apologize. So if ADOT has the ability to put a borrow pit anywhere that they choose, does our enacting this ordinance make a difference?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember. The difference it makes is it gives the community and the landowner the ability to fill in that borrow pit so that the property can then be developed rather than remaining a pit that doesn't contribute to the community, and it can also become an attractive nuisance to the community.
Right. I understand that part of it, but if we can't.
Bill Christopher is here. He would like to address this.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Mayor, Council, thank you. This zoning text amendment, as Katie illustrated, is just for the filling of existing pits. It's not creating a mechanism to propose new ones. Currently, we have a void in our ordinance, and we have these two publicly based, created, if you will, borrow pits that we anticipate there being interest in filling to reclaim for further developable uses in the future. So I just want to be clear that this is not creating a mechanism for them to be proposed, but it is creating a mechanism for them to be filled.
Okay, so the creation of them is not anything that we have authority over, but the filling of them is?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Vice Mayor?
I just had a question. The two we're talking about, how old are those? How long have they been open like that?
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. I am actually not sure of when, but they've been there since Interstate 10 was created.
The original creation?
In the 1980s.
Okay, so that's been a while. Mm-hmm. And how quick can they get filled up? I know the one I drive by Walmart, that's awfully deep.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. We're hearing reports that that particular one could anticipate being filled up in 5 years.
And then once they're filled up, is there special grading, or do we have ordinances on, that might be more Rebecca, on how to make sure that, I guess they're safe to construct houses on? They're stable, yeah, because it just seems like everything's in there.
Thank you, Mayor and Council Members. I'll try and answer, and Rebecca can step in, but that's what we do through the review of the special use permit, is we're creating those regulations of these are the engineering reports you're going to have to give to the city. This is how often we're going to go out to the site and inspect it to make sure it's correct. We're finding out what our partner agencies in the county and the state do for inspections, but there are some codes that regulate this, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, is making sure the compaction rates and it's all done so that it can eventually be developed on.
So it gives us the control to make sure that there's no settling when someone does want to build houses on it. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Councilman Campbell.
Well, Katie, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. Personally, I'm in favor of it because I go on Roosevelt all the time. I'm Walmart's best customer, and I'm just sick of looking at that pit. And I've often wondered what we could do, and I can imagine the neighbors around it would really love to see that filled and perhaps someday be developed. So thank you for coming forward with some mechanism that would allow this to happen. I don't know that they'll be doing it out at the trotter track, but I would hope someone would step forward quickly to start that on Roosevelt.
Councilman Pacello.
Hi, Katie. If I understand this correctly, they're going to be dumping things in like wood, concrete, anything from a site that's trash that they don't want to roll over and bury it on the front yard of wherever they're working. Does that sound about right?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Member. Wood is an organic material, and that's actually not an inert material, but concrete, sand, dirt, those types of materials.
As they dump the concrete in there, is there a regulation as far as what's covered up? So it's not only the pit being an eyesore, but having a variety of things poking out of the dirt, like concrete blocks or et cetera, as a result of being interim, where they're starting to fill that up.
Thank you, Mayor. Council Member. I'm not sure I fully understand.
I think you're called up again.
I mean, if
just stay there until this is done, because
no, my question: if you're dumping concrete in there, okay, and you're dumping dirt and sand and a variety of other things, unless there's the end piece is dirt over top of what was dumped, you're going to see a variety of material popping out of that hole. And I guess my question is there regulations to make sure that doesn't happen as you're filling it in, so it doesn't make it worse by looking at it as just a dump zone?
Thank you, council member. And if you actually go by and look at it now, you're going to see that there are larger pieces of concrete and there's some metal sticking up. It was an existing landfill some time ago, and I think 3 or 4 years ago, it was no longer to be used for that. And I think there was some illegal dumping that occurred. So if this were to move forward, they would actually have to go in and pull out a number of the material pieces and break them into smaller pieces so that it could actually be compacted appropriately, which would be, again, part of the process we would go through so that you didn't have large pieces that could have voids or you didn't have pieces sticking out.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Campbell?
Well, I've already talked.
Okay. Okay, Councilman Osborne.
Thank you. It's funny. About a month ago, I was at that en route coffee shop that right there on Roosevelt, and was stopped by a resident that probably for half an hour was just furious over that pit. Mm-hmm. And so this is, one of those things that you sit there thinking, okay, I know there was the confusion. Now, what exactly are we, having for this zoning? Are we allowing more to come into our city? Because if that was the case, I was like, no. And I understood Councilmember Stipp, we don't want it by residential because we don't want to see it again like the one that we have on Roosevelt. But I understand how are we going to go forward and fill it. So I appreciate you bringing the zoning to us, and that way we can do our best to regulate it more, I suppose. But it like opens up more questions. Well, how are they going to dump in there, trucks going through that area, the noise, it will be interesting how then you deal with a special use permit and all those regulations around it. But I do appreciate you bringing it because it's one of those things that you don't really think you're going to have to deal with, kind of like when the marijuana bill was passed and nobody wanted to deal with the zoning, but it was like, if we don't deal with the zoning, then there can even be more chaos. So, I do appreciate that. And hopefully it's just dirt.
Vote? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Great. Let's go to 7.3. It's public hearing to consider amending Article 1 and Article 9 of the zoning ordinance to amend the City Center Gateway Overlay District. Open the public hearing. Alex Latinsky, Planner 2, to present. Alex?
Is this on? Oh, good evening, everyone. The request tonight is, like you said, to amend the City of Goodyear zoning ordinance, Article 1 and Article 9. Article 1 removes reference to Section 9-2. The amendment to Article 9 removes Section 9-2 in its entirety. So just a little preview of what we'll be discussing, what the City Center Gateway Overlay District is, the purpose of the district, a current status, what won't be changing with this amendment, and the recommendation. So the City Center Gateway Overlay District is a special district as defined by Article 9. Special districts are areas that require special regulations and approval processes in addition to underlying zoning district requirements. And just for reference, the city only has 2 special districts, which are the City Center Gateway Overlay and the Freeway Development Overlay District. So we have the zoning classifications and development regulations for these zones in all areas of the city, but the areas within those overlay districts have extra requirements for special reasons. As we all know, or at least should know, the city center has been designated around Yuma and Estrella Parkway. Just one thing to note here, that is not changing. And then we have the mall site up top. So the City Center Gateway Overlay District connects the 2 areas and to create the overlay. In 2003, the City Center Gateway Overlay District plan was adopted. With it, the City Center Gateway Overlay Streetscape Plan Manual, which is a separate document, was also adopted, and it applies all the way from McDowell to MC 85. The intent was to impose enhanced development standards to the district. So we have a regional center and we have a city center, and we wanted to use Estrella Parkway as a unique main street between the two. When the overlay district was implemented, the district was the city's leverage to require design enhancements, since at the time the city's design guidelines weren't substantial. So currently, we'll look at what's changed in the City Center Gateway Overlay and maybe what didn't work or what is no longer necessary anymore. The commercial centers that were built within the overlay district so far have been built in accordance with the overlay district. They're focusing on pedestrian connectivity and building buildings closer to property lines to create a more urban and walkable environment. The overlay district regulations were satisfied, but as you can see along Roosevelt, the backs of the buildings were put along the streets as opposed to the front where pedestrians could come and walk along the main roads and have access to the property. So the intent was not met, but the regulations were implemented. One major thing to point out is that the only areas the overlay has left to have an impact on are Estrella Commons, Hudson Commons, and Centerra Crossings, which are Estrella Commons is up top along I-10. Hudson Commons is southwest corner of Estrella and Van Buren, and then Centerra Crossings across the street. So one hurdle that we've seen with these additional requirements is, for example, there's a requirement that a minimum of 15% of the total street frontage in a center be built to the front setback line. So as an example, if we look at Centerra Crossings, we have the General Hospital on the corner. We did approve the drive-through and the commercial center just to the south. And then the additional setback requirements are going to be left to those last parcels. So it may stall development in the long run just because we're having a difficult time reaching out to developers to build it along those street frontages. What we've discovered now is that the City Center Gateway Overlay District is no longer necessary to this area. It's adding a lot of time to the development process. For example, hotels are allowed in commercial districts, but within the overlay district has to go through a use permit process, which is the public approval process, takes 3 to 4 months, so it's really slowing development, and it can really deter some cool projects, which I'll show you an example in a few more slides. The ballpark was built in 2008, obviously a great addition, but requires more traffic along Estrella Parkway, causing it to be widened. And then, you didn't get to it tonight, but the sign ordinance update is coming, which is addressed in the Gateway Overlay District as well. Now we have the city's design guidelines, which were adopted in 2014 and applied to the whole city. A lot of the requirements that are currently in the design guidelines were more broadly represent the intent of the overlay district. So, for example, if we look at on the left, we have the language from this overlay district, which requires 150 spaces in a large parking lot to become tinier parking lots, and then landscape strips at least 5 feet wide. The city's new design guidelines require even smaller bits of parking spaces with additional landscape strips in between. Another example is the requirement for decorative paving between parking lots and the front entry to promote pedestrian safety. The design guidelines now does address this issue and requires that all over. Just one major thing that I didn't pull a specific example of is the overall emphasis on pedestrian accessibility and connectivity. The 2014 design guidelines places a huge emphasis on pedestrian connectivity, not only throughout developments, but through all areas of the city, and is ultimately a priority in the 2025 general plan. So what's not changing with this development is the City Center Streetscape Plan Manual. We still believe it's a useful tool in providing for a consistent and high-quality streetscape along Estrella Parkway. Like I said, City Center will not change. It's a specific area plan that has its own design guidelines. And then any current zoning within the area will remain zoned exactly how it is. It doesn't affect the zoning, just that overlay and additional steps moving forward. When the ballpark was built, it did not adhere to the City Center Gateway overlay regulations, and it won't be affected with this amendment. Any neighborhoods within the overlay district, the overlay district never applied to them, so those won't be affected. Public notifications were done with display ads in the newspaper. Property owners within the overlay and within 500 feet of the district were sent out. We had a neighborhood meeting on January 26th. There were 6 residents in attendance. They were all curious about what the text amendment actually meant, because it's a little hard to put it all on one postcard. We received phone calls and email inquiries asking for clarification. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the text amendment on March 22nd. Since then, we did receive 1 phone call in opposition of the text amendment. It was from a property representative within the overlay. He was also someone who worked on the overlay requirements with the city. He felt that the removal of the district may lower the quality of the development in the area. At that point, I shared with him the link to the city's new design guidelines and explained a lot of what I'm sharing with you tonight. So understandably, at the time the overlay district was created, it was very valuable. And fortunately, we've carried many of these concepts into the design guidelines and believe this will not affect the development in this area. So just as an example, this is a look of what's being proposed at Hudson Commons. This is Estrella Parkway and Van Buren. So we have a hotel in the back and then restaurants and commercial development on the corner. Between the Hudson Commons PAD and the city center, the city's design guidelines, this is already allowed. With the City Center Gateway Overlay District, not only will this require site plan approval, but a use permit for that hotel in the back would be required. So it's adding a lot of extra time to the developer's timeline when it's technically when it's already allowed if the City Center Gateway Overlay District wasn't there. So tying back to what I mentioned earlier about what areas are left undeveloped, we have, like I said, Hudson Commons, Centerra Crossings, and Estrella Commons. These are all PADs. So Estrella Commons is the only one that's left that doesn't have a final PAD. So if we're concerned about the quality of development in these areas, the PAD is where we can really pull out that high quality development. There also has been a letter of support of the text amendment that was submitted to Mayor and Council, and it was included in your packets. Therefore, in addition to Planning Commission's recommendation, staff recommends approval. Katie, Christopher, and myself can answer any questions or make any clarifications if need be.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. Going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read Ordinance 17-1344 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 17-1344, deleting Article 9.2 of the Goodyear zoning ordinance, eliminating the City Center Gateway Overlay District, and amending Article 1-5-1 to replace reference in Article 1-5-1 from Article 9 to Article 1-5-2B, provide for severability, and provide for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second?
Second.
A motion from Councilman Holman and a second from Vice Mayor Loretano. Open for council discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
going back to your PowerPoint slide, there was one on the zoning commission that opposed it. Did I see that slide correct?
There was one phone call from a property representative that we received, not a commissioner.
Oh, okay. What was the objection?
He had been a part of the creation process of the city center overlay district, and really believed its value of creating high quality development. And if we removed it, he believed that the quality of development along Estrella would be lowered.
And what I'm hearing from you, that's not the case?
We don't believe that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilman Campbell?
Okay, I've got just a couple of questions, Alex. Where is Estrella Commons? You said that's the only one that doesn't have.
Estrella Commons is just south of the I-10 on the east side of Estrella Parkway.
Oh, I don't like maps like that. Do you have a regular map?
Thank you. It's across from Walmart on Estrella Parkway. just north of the QT.
Thank you. I know where that is.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. All right. My next question, the walkways, I know it's in the design guidelines, and the only thing we're changing is the size of the parking lot. We're still going to make them put that some kind of a decorative stone or rough something to mark the walkways, so that when you push your basket in Walmart, your teeth get jarred out because you're running across the pebbles and stuff.
Correct.
That doesn't change, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's it.
That's
that was
it.
simple.
Thank you.
Councilman
That's simple.
Stipp?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm still here.
I didn't forget about you.
I have no questions on this, and I'm going to stay for one more item after this one, just to remind you that I'm still here.
Okay. That's, I understand, 7.4, so I'll be sure to call you. Any other?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Osborne?
Thank you. Well, I was on planning and zoning when this came through, and I remember that, why we did it, and I appreciate that our design guidelines have gotten better, and certainly those are all good things. Couple of the things that as I read back through the old overlay and specific items to it, actually Councilor Campbell just brought up one of them was regarding the design and materials of the colors of the pedestrian walkways, and addressing that they go with the building and things like that, and I think that's all taken care of. I know that the whole premise of this was to have a standard of quality, and there was a vision. I mean, there truly was a vision of what that was going to look like. But I think there's about 3 things. The parking, that's great, that's been addressed. But there's 3 things that I still help me feel better about. Okay. And that is, we specifically had thought and vision about the corners of the streets, and they were required a look. And what you showed as an example of what could be was beautiful architecture, great layout. Left a lot of empty space on that corner, so it's hard to know what that really meant. I mean, that could be 5 feet. I don't know, so it's really hard to tell from that. Beautiful look, though. And the emphasis was supposed to be on those corners, whether it was some kind of courtyard or artwork or whatever. And I hope that that's not leaving by us getting rid of this, because that was really the purpose of it, was that there was going to be vision and there was going to be specific standards that we kept to. Corners were one of them. The other thing was that plazas and courtyards were required for areas that were over an acre in commercial centers. I don't know where that still fits in design guidelines. Can you address that part?
Katie can.
Back row.
Appreciate it, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I happened to speak to the designer team on this earlier today, so I did want to make the point that Alex might not be aware of, that this specific graphic was created to show off the architecture of the building. So it's not showing, some of the landscaping that'd be along the corner. They made it look flat so that you can see what the buildings look like. And then there would also likely be some signage and an enhanced corner. This graphic just isn't showing that because it's trying to show off the architecture of the buildings themselves. So it's not fully representative of exactly what the site it's going to look like. This would be similar to Goodyear Center Point, where they have the, now it's Panera Bread with the outdoor courtyard. This is trying to create some outdoor dining space. This doesn't have plans for necessarily those architectural columns that Goodyear Center Point has, but the outdoor space that would be similar to this.
Can you interject, Katie, just because the public's listening to this, actually, that this is going there, the hotels, and just update them?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a site plan we have in for review. So the hotel building and then these 3 shop buildings along the corner are in for review and approval right now. So we're hoping to be able to approve the site plan and then they'd move on to construction plans. But as Alex said, right now there is a use permit requirement in the city center gateway overlay for hotels. On the corner of, Alex is bringing up, on the corner of Van Buren Street and Estrella Parkway, so across the street from the emergency room. So it's those shops buildings are this hard corner here, and then the hotel's about right here.
On the Hudson property.
Great location for the golf.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Katie. When I saw this first came up, this was heartburn for me because, there was reason for it. And, always that question of, are we throwing this away with quality? And so I'm going with what you guys are saying. I'm going to put my faith into our design guidelines. And, we have visions, and sometimes our visions have to change, but we have to rest on what's going with those changes. And I think that example makes me feel better that that's what's quality is going to be, coming to that area, not that it's just open season right now. Thanks.
Any other comments? Well, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled the Hudson property that they moved forward. I'm thrilled about the 2 hotels. They'll be combined. It's exactly what we need there. And only comment was, and of course you couldn't see the landscaping exactly, but it would be nice to have a little bit more outside dining. And if that's going to be a restaurant on that corner, we just love sitting outside, and there could be shade areas, and that's my only comment. And it's just a comment. So anyway, okay, all the discussion is done. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne? Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Great. We're going to go to 7.4 on business is a public hearing to consider an amendment to the La Jolla Vista PAD stipulation number 35. Open public hearing. Joe Schmidt, long range planner, will present. Joe?
Mayor and Council, good evening. We're going to revisit an issue that we visited about 3 months ago, and that is...
Joe, you get a little closer.
All right. We're looking at the La Jolla Vista PAD amendment related to stipulation number 35. To put the property in context, La Jolla Vista is located at the northeast corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road and is about 200 acres in size. It has a PAD approved for it that expects it to develop with 515 single-family units in 8 different development parcels, along with a park site and an elementary school site. During the original consideration of the development back in 2005, stipulation number 35 was required in Ordinance 05971 that a pedestrian access point at a minimum be provided through the development so that the residents of the Sweetwater Estates subdivision could reach the park site and the public school site. In fact, as the preliminary plat went through its approval process, there were actually 3 access points provided through the design of the subdivision, but the primary one was this one in the center of the subdivision on the south side of Durango. The PAD amendment was processed in 2016, last year, and during consideration of the change of these parcels from court homes to single-family detached product, the residents from the Sweetwater Estates subdivision to the north came out and once again raised an objection to any kind of access being provided between their subdivision and the new subdivision. And at that time, the City Council directed staff to initiate action to eliminate stipulation number 35, which required the pedestrian access. In terms of the staff analysis on this, we acknowledge that pedestrian connectivity is usually desirable for access to public facilities and community buildings. In this instance, actually, the Sweetwater Estates residents were intended to be the primary beneficiary of that access, but yet at the same time, they strongly opposed it. The distance to the school site with the access would be about 4,500 feet compared to 7,400 feet without the access. But even at a distance of about a mile, if the access were provided, it would be unlikely to be used. And we feel that the difference in character between the adjacent neighborhoods, the rural versus suburban, is probably justification not to make that requirement. There will still be some access to Durango Street from the subdivision. I wanted to acknowledge that there's an RID well site at this location here, just about between 175th and 176th Avenues, which will take access to Durango, but there will not be a through access through the site, only just to Durango for that particular use. And there will be a gated access for the RID to get at their underground facilities and potentially for use as emergency access in the event of an emergency for use by police and fire personnel. But it would be locked all the time except when absolutely needed. In terms of public participation, we held a neighborhood meeting on January 27th. About 10 residents attended. When they explained to them about the limited access to Durango, they seemed amenable to that and understood the need for RID to have access and for the emergency vehicle access. The public hearing held on February 22nd at the Planning and Zoning Commission. 3 persons appeared and expressed the same types of objections, but once again were agreeable to limited gated access. They did not want to see the gated access, though, used as some justification for opening it up in the future. So the staff recommendation was basically to adopt Ordinance 171340, which approves actually a modification to the stipulation rather than just a deletion of the stipulation. And it would prohibit all access to Durango Street from La Jolla Vista to and La Jolla Vista, except for the limited access by RID to its well facility and the gated access at 175th Drive for RID in emergency vehicles or personnel. At that public hearing, the P&Z voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the recommendation of the ordinance.
Thank you.
That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Appreciate it. I have a speaker card from Ken Bradley. Mr. Bradley, I think you were here, but you understand that you have 3 minutes, and the yellow light and the buzzer will let you know when you have 30 seconds left to speak. And before you speak, identify yourself by clearly stating for the record your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Ken Bradley from 1901 South 177th Avenue in the Sweetwater Estates. And hello, ghost telephone voice. I talked with Joe a few minutes ago and he answered my question. So I just, thank you for all the work that the planning people have done, all the developers, and all the time you folks have put in. And I couldn't do your job. Thank you very much.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. And there are anybody else in the audience wants to speak? All right, well then I'm going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read Ordinance 17-1340 by title only?
Adopt Ordinance 17-1340, amending the final planned area development zoning for La Jolla Vista, comprised of approximately 198.5 acres, located at the northeast corner of Citrus and Lower Buckeye Roads, to modify stipulation number 35 of Ordinance number 2005-971 to eliminate the requirement to provide pedestrian access between La Jolla Vista and the adjacent Sweetwater Estates subdivision, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. I heard a motion by Councilman Stiff and a second by Councilman. Councilman, I do it every time. Are you there, Stiff?
I'm not even there, yeah.
I just want to check you weren't up here. I heard a motion by Councilman Bazzillo and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Councilman Campbell.
So, Joe, would you please tell me how fire and police can enter this subdivision for the protection of the people that are going to move there?
By way of a street, Watkins Street, which intersects with Citrus Road. There'll be a couple of access points here at 177th, 175th, 173rd through Magnolia, and then through this spine road that runs through the development. So
there'll just be no Durango access for them at all.
There will be no Durango, no vehicular access or pedestrian access at all.
Okay.
Any other questions? No questions, so I guess, are you ready? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Council has asked for a 10-minute break, so we're going to take a 10-minute break, okay? The next item on business is 7.5 is a public hearing to consider the zoning amendment to create an expiration for land use and development applications. Public hearing opened. Katie Wilkin, Planning Manager, to present.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We have another zoning ordinance text amendment before you. This one is to consider creating an expiration for land use and development applications to the Development Services Department. The reason we're bringing this forward to you is we've had a lot of recent interest in restarting inactive projects, even projects back from 2007, 2008. So we're getting questions from customers regarding the status of old cases, and we need clarity because there is nothing in the zoning ordinance that specifically states if there's an expiration for an application or not. There are a couple applications that are more clear. Our rezoning applications with the adoption of a new general plan could be considered expired old ones, and annexation applications have an expiration date, but no other applications do. So I want to go through a very high level of the process with you. So the first thing up in the planning application process is a customer submits an application to us. And just to give you a little bit of data, we've had 40 applications submitted to us in January and February, which is a 60% increase over 2016, which is why we're so busy, which is why we have such a full agenda tonight. So then once the application is received, staff reviews the application against our codes and regulations. And so you hear us a lot talk about our review time, and that's what we mean about our review time, is that time it's actually in staff's hand for review. Currently we're at about an 11-day review time, which is a 42% improvement over last year's times. So after we've reviewed the application, we put together a comment letter and give that back to the customer, which states what they have to do to come into conformance with our codes and regulations. And so the customer then takes that comment letter and updates plans. On average, the customer has that for 20 days. And I should note these are business days that I'm stating. So they have it about a month before they resubmit plans back to the city. So then they would resubmit plans, we review it again, and then we hopefully would approve it at that time, and then the customer would move on to the next step, such as construction plans. So just in the last couple of months, we've had about 5 projects that have been restarted from inactive cases. You may have even seen it in the past. Our case numbers start with the year. So you may, it's 2016, and you're seeing a case number that starts with a 12, and that's because some of these cases do linger on with the planning application process. This can be difficult for staff because typically, like just for an example on a preliminary plat, on a first review, it takes us on average 20 staff hours to review that. Now, on second review, because we're just looking at what we commented on, it typically only takes half that time, so about 10 staff hours. But when it's been a year or 2 years from the time the applicant submitted till the time they submitted it again, it can almost be like doing a first review because our regulations have changed. It's been such a long time that we have to refresh ourselves with the application. And that hurts the applicant, the customer, as well as staff in trying to make these improvements to the processes that we've been doing lately. So right now we have about 70 cases waiting for return from 2015. So that's really just the last 2 years. About 20 of those have been waiting with the customer for over 100 days, where again, just a reminder, typically our customers turn those around to us in about 20 days. So those ones that are hanging out for 100 days, we're already, asking, hey, what's going on with those? Is the project dead, or are we expecting that to get turned back into us? And just to give you perspective, and these are some of the terms we've been using with the process improvements we've been doing, but we typically have 5 to 8 cases in with staff to review at any given time, which we call work in progress or WIP. And so what we're proposing is to expire applications after 6 months of no activity. So again, it's not the whole entire process. It's just that period from when staff is given a comment letter to a customer from the time to they resubmit. If more than 6 months go by, it would give staff the authority to expire that. But our intent is not to be punitive to our customers at all. So what we would do is after 5 months, we haven't heard back from our customer, we would contact them and tell them that, hey, in 30 days, your application's going to expire. You have 3 options. You can resubmit your plans, you can request an extension, or you can allow the application to expire if you know the project's no longer moving forward. We did present this at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and we originally had it limited to a one-time extension, but they requested that staff not limit the number of extensions and that we give staff the flexibility to allow multiple extensions. The only criteria we have on the extension is that they have to show that they reasonably think the project is going to move forward. So it's not a very stringent criteria to meet to get an extension. And that extension would be allowed by the zoning administrator, who's the Development Services Department director. So that wouldn't need to come to City Council for approval. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Katie. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? I'm going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read Ordinance 17-1343 by title only?
Adopt Ordinance 17-1343, amending Article 1-3-10, Administration of the Zoning Ordinance as amended to establish an expiration date for inactive land use and development applications, providing for corrections, severability, an effective date, and penalties.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Vice Mayor Loretano and a second by Councilman Osborne. Open for council discussion. Is Bill Stipp still here? No, he left. Okay, we said he sent you a text. He was still on. He's not on anymore. All right. Councilman Pizzillo.
Katie, I understand not want to be punitive on the extensions, but the question I have is, are you defeating the purpose if after 6 months or as it approaches 6 months, in the 5th month, you're giving them notification for 30 days and then they could keep coming back? Well, it's coming in another 30 days. Oh, I need another extension. So then you're back to where you were before about being a year or a year and a half past. I guess my question is, at some point, I'm hoping that they're either on or they're off as far as filing that. And to be honest with you, I thought your 6 months is pretty reasonable, because if they haven't sent something back to you within 6 months, are they really going to be moving the project forward? What I don't want to do is create an additional burden for staff, even though I understand the customer service aspect. And don't get me wrong, I don't want it to be punitive, but the same token, I'll be honest with you, I thought your one extension was for 30 days was reasonable, but that's my perspective.
Councilman Campbell?
I agree with Councilmember Pizzillo, but I really would like to see a termination date. I mean, because someone could ask for an extension for the next 2 years, and you're back doing the same thing you're doing right now, trying to figure out, are they going to move it forward? And depending on when they resubmit it, you have to start all over with staff if it's been some length of time. But I don't have a real suggestion of a good time that would work. I would assume a year or two. Don't you think, Councilmember Pizzillo? What do you think?
I think 6 months is reasonable. What they originally proposed with the one-time extension of 30 days or something.
What do you think, Katie and Christopher?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I should note that we did contact other cities, and Avondale, Chandler, Gilbert, Glendale, and Scottsdale expire applications after 6 months of no activity. The one exception is that Peoria does so after 12 months. They do give a little longer than the other cities, but there's pretty much a consensus from the other cities.
So the consensus is 6 months.
Correct.
Christopher, do you have something to add to that?
Yes, Mayor, Council, thank you. I heard Councilmember Pizzillo mention a one-time 30-day extension. In my opinion, 30 days is really not long enough for an extension. That if Council is seeking to limit those numbers, we should also make it like a 6 month, because there is a lot of coordination amongst professional disciplines, including legal, outside legal, real estate, engineering, design, architecture, that can impact schedules from the customer's perspective.
Financial backing.
Financial backing, yes, ma'am. So 30 days is frankly too short of a window, and I would not recommend that. I would if that was something the council wanted to do, as opposed to how the ordinance is presented to you tonight, I would respectfully suggest a 6 month, approximately 6 months. And then one other point that Katie was alluding to is that should council approve the ordinance, that it would be effective from the date of effective from the date it becomes effective, which would be 30 days after you pass it. So this is not to Katie's point, punitive. This is not a retroactive expiration. Those that are out there will be out there. We'll be working with those folks should they come back in. But this is from, let's assume for a second that you vote tonight. It would be, what is today? The 27th. April 27th forward is when those things would begin to expire.
Okay, so the ordinance before us now does not have that language of 6 months in it, does it?
Thank you. It's a 6 month expiration, and then 90-day or about 3 month extensions can be granted.
It is in there? Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't limit it to just one. It's unlimited extensions.
So it could run for 2 years.
Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm. And the other cities is an extension or not an extension?
I don't have that in front of me. I think it wasn't consistent amongst the cities.
Vice Mayor?
I understand the concern of having this stuff just run, and then you all have to start it over. Is there any way we could do a limited number of 3-month extensions, like
that
2 or 3 month, and then it's just done? Because then we're all starting from scratch anyway, but that does give time. I'm not sure what the number is in the community, but maybe.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor, Council. Certainly, what we want to do is try and provide some flexibility to the development community and not cut off our nose to spite our face, so to speak. At the same point in time, provide some assurance moving forward. And so if council says 2 3-month extensions or 90 days extensions, what have you, that we are empowered administratively to do, that is great. And if we experience that this is not working as intended for our customers, much like tonight we brought forth this revision to the City Center Gateway Overlay District, we are not bashful in proposing changes to our ordinances. So if we're not getting the desired results, you'll see an amendment come forth.
Can we call economic development up on that one? Michelle, give us your opinion on that one. How, and especially in the era that we're in right now, with financing hard to get, and
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot, and when I first heard the idea, I thought, well, I'm not sure if that that kind of hurts the development projects from going forward. But I think Katie's explanation is great, and it makes a lot of sense to me because you're able to give your priority to those projects that are on the table and they're not lapsing. And so I really appreciate the suggestion. I think it makes a lot of sense.
So are you recommending the one that was applied on the COAC or at a faster pace?
Or I think well,
I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay, that's okay. I think I wouldn't do unlimited extensions. That I just for me, and I'm not the expert. I really look at Katie as that. I don't think that I would do unlimited extensions. Maybe limit it a little bit, just so it's not continually on their plate. Okay. Would be my recommendation.
All right, Katie, you have the floor back.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, well, we're not done. Sure, Vice Mayor.
When we're talking about the extensions, are those just administrative or do those have to go through council?
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. That would be administrative.
Is there any way we could phrase something where you maybe get 2 administrative, and then if you want more than that, they'd have to come to us? Is that not possible? Or
I don't want to make it too complicated.
I'm trying to make it easy, but so that it's not cutting off the time frame.
Mayor,
Joanne?
I believe the 3-month extensions is an easy answer to that. So that's where I was.
Like the other cities, 6 months and it's done in maybe 3 extensions or 2 extensions.
So tell us again what the other cities are doing.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Members. The other cities, Avondale, Chandler, Gilbert, Glendale, and Scottsdale do a 6-month expiration. Peoria gives 12. But I don't have specific information on what extensions each of those communities allows.
That's 15 months altogether then, isn't it? That's 15 months. Seems plenty of time to get many of those answers, financially, whatever.
6 months and 3-3.
Yeah.
How about 6 months and 3-3?
Or 2 3s.
You can always bring it back at a later date if we find out it's
not working.
It's not working. I want to give, for cases that it's seeking financial backing and things. Yes, sure. Councilman Nolan.
My question would be, are they automatic extensions if they request it? I mean, can you say no?
Thank you, Council Member. The criteria we have is simply that a 90-day extension for good cause if there's reasonable belief that it will be pursued. So we'd want to see some demonstration from the applicant that they think it's going to move forward. But that is not a very difficult, stringent test to meet.
Well, but it's not automatic, and they have to show some activity. And I think isn't that what we're afraid of, that they aren't working on it, or are not afraid of, concerned about?
So are we saying we stick with this one? Councilman Stipp? Fazzillo?
That's all right. I get that gives me 2 votes.
Bill never has. He's just constant with me.
Yes, I know.
You did move down, didn't you?
I know. You know, if I take Christopher's recommendation, he has two, what was it, 90-day recommendations? That puts it at a year, right? 6 months. Did I count right?
Yeah, Christopher suggested a 6-month extension, which 2 90 days or 1 6 month, whichever council has a preference. Yeah, it would be the same amount of time.
You know this is getting late.
Okay.
2 nickels or a dime.
Mayor, council, just to make it easy, I would respectfully suggest 1 6-month extension.
Okay.
You know, there are, as I indicated, there's a lot of variables. Financing, as you pointed out, Mayor, ADWR. I mean, there's a lot of different things, and that gives us the greatest flexibility.
Right. Do we have the verbiage for that, for someone to make the motion? Amendment? Is this an amendment to what we've just done? Do we have some help from the
I
lawyer?
would probably recommend it. Councilmember Pizzolo, are you going to make the motion?
I'm going to give it to Joe.
So you need to make a motion to amend. It'll be section 4, and where it currently states the zoning administrator may authorize in writing a 90-day extension, you're going to amend that to the zoning administrator may authorize no more in writing, no more than one 180-day extension, and leave the rest of the verbiage for good cause. Did you get that, Maureen?
Can I say,
That would be,
yeah,
what I said?
the extension, the extension what the
stated by the
attorney
city
just
attorney.
said for 6 months, 1 extension by the administrator,
Yes.
and it was captured?
Did you
You
capture
got
it?
it? Okay.
So we have an amendment to the
To
motion.
be an amendment to the main motion.
Yes.
So you have a motion. You need
Have a
second.
motion to amend it for 6 months, 1 shot extension.
Okay.
You got a second?
We have a second. Councilman Campbell. Okay, so roll call vote. Oh, wait a minute. We missed a step.
The amendment first. That's just a voice vote.
I'm sorry, what?
Voice vote, just all in favor on the amendment.
Okay. Oh, okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You can tell at 9:10 at night. We're a little bit slow this evening at this time. So thank you very much. So this is the next item on the
Mayor?
public hearing. Am
Mayor, I
done?
still need to do a
We amended
roll
it,
call
now
on
we
the
have
main
to-
vote.
We have to have the motion. Okay.
Already motioned.
Now roll call. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell, Councilmember Homan,
Aye.
Mayor Lord,
Aye.
passes 6-0.
Took us a little while, we got it done, guys. All right, let's go to 7.6. It's a public hearing to consider a pad amendment to make minor modifications to a portion of Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park, final pad overlay. Took a little slowness.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, public hearing open. Karen Craver to present. Karen?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get back to the beginning. Thank you. Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park is located between Cotton Lane on the west and Saraville on the east, and Elwood on the north, and MC 85 on the south. Recently, Opus Development Company purchased 95 acres at the southeast corner of Cotton and Commerce, adjacent to Macy's and across the street from Amazon. Opus is asking to amend 2 of the PAD development standards: the prohibition of loading areas, loading docks, and truck trailer parking facing Cotton, and the 50-foot maximum allowed building height. The amendment would allow the loading areas, loading docks, and truck trailer parking to face Cotton for a rail-served industrial building only. Staff supports this amendment. The amendment would also allow silos and tanks and similar unoccupied structures to go up to 65 feet. Staff supports this with the exception of silos associated with any building fronting on Commerce, because the 65-foot silo adjacent to a building on Commerce would be very visible from Commerce Drive. Opus is proposing Cotton Lane screening that includes 2 rows of 24-inch box trees, a 6-foot wall on a 2-foot berm or an 8-foot wall, trailers parked 50 feet from the property line, and truck bay doors 300 feet from the Cotton Lane curb. Staff, we are recommending, in addition to the wall berm, trailers at 50 feet, and the bay doors at 300 feet, that there be one row of 24-inch box trees supplemented by one row of 30-inch box trees. This modification is proposed in an effort to provide additional screening from the onset and to increase the sustainability of those trees as they grow. Staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission are recommending approval of the PAD amendment subject to the amendment description and the stipulations in Ordinance 17-1345. And we ask that Council approve the PAD amendment by adopting Resolution 17-1795 and Ordinance 17-1345.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Mr. Bull?
Thank you, Mayor. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne, on behalf of Opus. Sean Cummings from Opus is here with me. We agree with the recommendations that are in front of you, including the modified stipulation calling for the larger trees. I agree with everything Karen just said. If you have questions or need additional information, we'll be happy to provide it. Otherwise, we request your approval.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read Resolution 17-1795 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 17-1795, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk entitled the Amended Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park Final PAD Overlay dated March 22nd, 2017.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. I heard a motion by Vice Mayor Loretano and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Councilman Campbell.
I've got a quick question for you, Karen. Did we ask Amazon to double plant trees on cotton as we're asking this property owner to do?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm sorry, what?
Councilwoman Campbell, no, we did not do that, but the two buildings that were built, Amazon and where Kaiser Panel is now fronting on Cotton Lane, don't have the dock doors facing Cotton Lane. So they didn't have extra.
So the only reason why we're asking for the double
is because of the dock doors and all the trailers.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Welcome to Goodyear. That's great.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. So number 2 on that, will the city clerk please read the ordinance 17-1345 by title only?
Adopt Ordinance 17-1345, amending the Goodyear Crossing Industrial Park Final Pad Overlay to allow roll-up dock doors to face South Cotton Lane for a rail-served industrial building only, and to allow ancillary unoccupied silos and tanks to exceed the maximum building height up to 65 feet, except for buildings that front on West Commerce Drive on approximately 95.6 acres located at the southeast corner of South Cotton Lane and West Commerce Drive, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for corrections, severability, and effective date and penalties.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Vice Mayor. Open for council discussion. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Great job, staff, helping us through that. Thank you so much. Welcome to Opus, huh? All right, let's go on to 7.7. To consider West Goodyear Sewer and Water Infrastructure Development Agreement. Rebecca, you've talked a lot tonight, but now's the big one. Rebecca Zook, Engineering Director, to present.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to be here this evening to present to you the West Goodyear Infrastructure Development Agreement. Ultimately, it's an accumulation of many years of work by both the external customer and staff. The overall project began with the city back in 2005 with 16 properties. The West Goodyear planning area is what we called it, and it was over 3,000 acres with just a little over 8,000 residential units as part of the entire West Goodyear area. Over the last 10 years, a number of council actions involving the initial DAs, adjustments, renegotiations, and extensions have all come before you, as recently as the last year to 18 months. The goal and effort of all of those development agreements was to stimulate development. And I'm happy to share with you that that 5 developers have come together, and that is what this development agreement is about. That they are proposing to build 3.5 miles of both water and sewer public infrastructure lines in order to spur development of just over 1,800 individual single-family residential units. The 5 different properties are Amber Meadows, Paseo Ridge or Place 1 and 2, Las Ventanas, Pradera, and La Jolla Vista, which was also before you this evening. They have joined together to fund these key regional water and sewer trunk line extensions. The 3.5 miles of public lines cost almost $3 million, and they will again serve just under 2,000 residential units. Ultimately, these 3.5 miles represent 40% of the original infrastructure that was proposed back in 2005. The DA before you this evening guarantees that construction will begin in 90 days after the execution of the agreement, which typically occurs 10 days after the meeting if approved by council. And then the infrastructure will be completed in 9 to 10 months. So ultimately, the city benefits that are associated with this development agreement is, again, there is a construction timing guarantee. Within 60 days, they will have funded an escrow account, and then within 30 days following that 60 days, they will have begun construction. And it's very specific in the development agreement as what would be considered that they have begun construction. In addition, they are proposing to develop 5 well sites, 1 in each property if the city so desires. In addition, we will be getting that public infrastructure after it is constructed. So at the end of 10 months, we've worked with the Public Works Department to ensure that those lines are cared for during the time that we take them over and when they are brought back into service. In addition, updated engineering standards will be required as the individual parcels come on and are connected to the line. The West Goodyear requests are that they have 10 years of vesting for this commitment and buy-in to the city's infrastructure. They will have consolidated plan approvals, and what that means is we have had, over the last several years, they have submitted and gained approval on those 3.5 miles of line, and so we're taking those different pieces of the plans together and consolidating them, and we'll be ready to issue a permit if this is again approved by council. They are also asking for the ability to use an escrow account, which is allowed by the city through a development agreement, and so it is embedded within this development agreement. Finally, they have asked for 2 years approval of the improvement plans. And today we typically do 1, and they're asking for the 2, again, to spur on this development. The 5 West Goodyear properties, over the next several years, if we move forward with the infrastructure, which would then allow for connection of these 5 parcels or 1,900 units, the potential is to bring in $16.1 million in impact fees in just the first few years, and then at ultimate build-out, it has the capability of $31.8 million, which is based simply on pulling single-family residential units, and it's our standard development impact fee rate. And I would like to also thank staff with working with me on this, as well as the city attorney's office. I wouldn't be here this evening had it not been for a true partnership here at the city. And then with that, I also have Steve Earle here and Phil Miller representing the development group. If you have any questions or would like to hear from them, they can certainly come up and speak with you. And with that, staff recommends approval of the West Goodyear development agreement for the infrastructure.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would they like to come up and speak now? I'll have them come up if they'd like to speak.
Mayor Lord and members of the council, my name is Stephen Earle. I am here tonight on behalf of those 5 property owners that Rebecca mentioned, Sambor Meadows, La Jolla Vista, Pradera, Las Ventanas, and Paseo Ridge. Also, Phil Miller, as mentioned, is here, and he's really the mastermind behind this concept. As you all know, these 5 property owners were there from the beginning. They didn't come in last year. They've been there from 2004 on and kind of held on through very difficult times because they believed in these properties. But there has been a significant chicken and egg problem in West Goodyear because no property owner owns thousands of acres upon which they could capitalize to build $8 million of infrastructure. There's 300 and 400 acre parcels. And that's been the problem, 28 parcels and a huge $8 million figure. So to Phil Miller's credit, he figured out how these 5 could spend $3 million and make themselves available for development. And so I want to, I guess, number one, thank Rebecca Zook, who, along with Wynette Reed and Brian Dahlke and Sarah Chilton, have really done some heavy lifting over the last several months to bring what was a concept that we brought last fall to a finished development agreement that's been executed by these owners. I also want to mention that the owners, in case anyone is worried about this, are fully committed to this proposal. They understand that if they don't put up the money in 60 days and they don't begin construction in 90 days, this thing is off. It's expired, and then all their plats will undo themselves and we'll be back to square one. So this is kind of the point in time where it's put up or shut up, and they're putting up the money to build this infrastructure. And I'm happy to respond to any questions you might have. I have a whole bunch of exhibits that I'm sure you don't want to see.
Thank you very much, and they may in a moment. So will the city clerk please read Resolution 17-1792 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 17-1792, approving development agreement for West Goodyear sewer and water infrastructure, providing authorization and direction to take actions and execute documents, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. I'm going to start this side. Councilman Campbell.
Well, we are so excited, and we can't thank you enough for stepping forward to start this infrastructure, because that's going to start that particular part of Goodyear booming. So thank you so much. Thank you for working with our staff. And I want to especially thank Rebecca for being so diligent with this and really walking it through to council and to our attorney staff and making all of us understand that this is a new way to do business for us. And we just appreciate so much you doing that for us.
Any other comments? Councilman Pizzillo?
Just a couple questions, Rebecca. To my understanding, we're not putting any money into this deal. Is there any scenario where it might cost us some money?
I can't think of any.
Okay. The second question is, my understanding there's a timeline as far as getting this built from a cost standpoint. I think Earl mentioned, 90 days or something like that. So who's going to be overseeing the development piece of it? Is it engineering?
Right. So it's 60 days for the escrow and then 30 days in which they need to be out there and construction staking. So we've identified it as an actual situation that has to occur in the field, and they would have pulled a permit prior to that, and we'd have our inspectors out in the field ensuring that that was happening.
So to quote Mr. Earl over there, it's either put up or shut up right now, right? In essence, okay. I guess the other question is if they don't go vertical for a while, you'll have pipes in the ground. It's my understanding. And again, if these questions don't make a whole lot of sense, this is not my area of expertise. But say, for example, there needs to be some fixing of the pipes because they've been sitting there for a while, and I don't know if concrete pipes over time tend to deteriorate as opposed to something mechanical that has to be run. Otherwise, the engine seems to wear out quicker. What happens at that point in time? Is there money set in reserves to bring them up to speed so people can hook up to them if for some reason the infrastructure is in the ground but needs a little work as a result of not being activated?
Thank you, Councilmember Pizzillo, and that's a very good question. And I guess I'll quote our Public Works Director, which said to me, it doesn't matter if you store it in the ground or above ground. It's simply storing it. So ultimately, we've set it up so that it is installed and not connected to. So it's isolated until it's actually put into use. Putting into use would be then developing one of those parcels and connecting to it. At that point, we have put into the development agreement the ability or the requirement that the developer tests the line and ensure that it functions properly, and that they ultimately would have a 1-year operational warranty after that if it's beyond the 2 years. So we typically have a 2-year warranty. In this case, there's going to be a 2-year plus potentially a 1-year warranty beyond that to make sure that it's operating and functioning correctly.
Okay, so we've got money to cover that in case for some reason some repairs need to be, because we're going to have a warranty on that piece. Am I hearing you correctly?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
We're just here saying you are good.
Amazing.
We have to tell you are amazing. We appreciate you. Any other comments? Well, I would like to make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Earl. It's been how long now? I've known you for a long, long
years.
time.
Oh, my God.
And to think you're taking the risk, you're being one of those outstanding developers that's saying, listen, I really believe in what we're doing. We're going to build this. And so your tenacity, you can come up and talk. Your tenacity is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Philip Miller, 16 Spur Circle, representing the 5 property owners, president and owner of PMC. I've been developing for 40 years, and I've had more confidence in this area of the earth than I've had in any place. So I'm excited. I want to have a golden shovel breaking ground. We are going to get home builders out there. We're going to have an article in the Brew. We're going to make this become a momentum because this area of the valley is just waiting for this. And I appreciate you letting us do this and giving us this much time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your support financially. All right. Anything else said? Let's go have a great vote for the roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Homan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lortano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne? Aye. Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Holy smokes.
Okay, so now we're going to go from 7.8 through 7.13, and we'll discuss together, but the action will be taken separately. All right? So Alex gets this treat to bring this before us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Alex, you're on board.
You beat me to the punch. I was going to ask for permission if I could combine the presentations.
So, Alex, you need to hold it closer.
Oh, sorry.
I hear what you're saying, hon. Sorry.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm going to combine the presentations. If you recall, in June of 2016, City Council approved the Lucero PAD amendment that was at the entry of Estrella. So we have the Star Tower right here. A future commercial welcome center will be right in between the Star Tower and parcel 11B. And then this main connector road, Hillside Drive. There's 6 parcels that are requested to be approved tonight. Parcel B is, like I said, right here that has 100 lots. This is where the first model homes will be built. Parcel C has 91 lots. A1 has 77, A2 has 70, F2 has 49, and G has 47. Like I said, Hillside Drive is that main connector road that will connect all the parcels to each other and have access to Estrella Parkway. So it will be developed first. There are stipulations implemented that will require that to be developed first. Staff has reviewed and recommends approval of all preliminary plats since they are in compliance with the Lucero PAD engineering standards and all technical requirements. All open space and development standards have been met, like I said, according to that PAD. The Planning Commission approved 11B and 11C on September 21st, 2016. A1 and A2 were approved on October 19th, 2016, and F2 and G were approved or recommended for approval March 15th, 2017. I can go into further details about the parcels if you'd like. However, for now, I'll conclude my presentation. Pete Tykey's here from Newland, and I can answer any questions if I can.
Thank you. So just to make sure for the public, City Clerk, there is nothing that you're going to read on this. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. From the presentation. So let's look. Are there anybody? Do you have any speaker cards? Anybody in the audience like to speak? No? Then we're going to start right away with 7.8. May I have a motion, a second, to approve the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.A1 subject to stipulations? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I had a motion from Vice Mayor Loretana, a second from Councilman Bazzillo. Open for council discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go to 7.9. A motion, a second, to approve a preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.A2 subject to stipulations.
So moved. Second.
I heard that Councilman Campbell motion and a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go to 7.10. May I have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11B?
So moved.
11.B subject to stipulations. Come on. Do I hear open for council discussion? No discussion. Motion and second, please.
So moved.
Mayor?
Councilman Bazzillo, a motion and a second
think we
by Councilman
skipped one.
Campbell. Was that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mayor?
Is that on 7.10?
Yes.
Motion by Councilmember Pizzillo and second from Campbell. Thank you for the clarification.
I'm sorry. I'll slow it down for you. I apologize. Open for council discussion. No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. 7.11. May I have a motion, a second, to approve the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.C, subject to stipulations?
So moved. Second.
I heard Councilman Holman make the motion, a second from Vice Mayor. Open for council discussion. No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Let's go on to 7.12. May I have a motion, a second, to approve the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.F2, subject to stipulations?
So moved.
Second.
I heard motion from Councilman Holman, a second from Council Campbell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. 7.13, may I have a motion, a second, to approve the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.G, subject to stipulations? Did I hear motion?
Motion, second, first.
I heard a motion for Councilman
Which
Campbell.
which
Do I
one is
hear-
it, Wally? First or second?
And who's the
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
Vice Mayor is second. So we had Campbell and Loretano. All in favor, council discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. 7.14, the last item of the night is to consider declaring and adopting the results of the primary election held on March 14, 2017. Our city clerk, Maureen Scott, will be presenting. Maureen?
Yay.
Okay.
All righty. So we're here.
Mayor, Lord, and council members, the item before you is to canvass the 2016 primary the 2017 primary election results. And by statute, the results have to be canvassed within 20 days of the election. And the election results included Mayor Lord, Councilmember Pizzillo, and Councilmember Campbell receiving the majority of votes cast and being reelected. And this leaves one seat vacant. So there will be a general or a runoff election, which will take place May 16th. And the runoff election will be between Sarah Gilligan and Brandon Hampton. Our voter participation was 29.05%, and that is the highest we've had since we did go to all-mail elections.
Wonderful.
We had 12,562 citizens that voted. The cost of the election will exceed the budgeted amount, and that's due to the increase of registered voters that we had for the presidential election. And we hope to absorb those additional costs through our city clerk budget, if possible. And for the general election, ballots will be mailed on April 19th to all Goodyear registered voters. The election day will be May 16th, and starting on April 19th, we will be an early voting site at City Hall again. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Or not? Will the city clerk please read Resolution 17-1779 by title only, please?
Adopt Resolution 17-1779 declaring and adopting the results of the primary election held on March 14th, 2017, and ordering the recordation of such resolution.
Great. Could I have a motion a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Vice Mayor Loretano, a second by Councilman Holman. Open for council discussion. Yes.
I have one question.
Really?
I do have one question. First of all, congratulations
Thank
to the winners. Maureen, as a follow-up, I do have a question. From this election, the question has come about regarding undervotes in the county. So in follow-up, can you, doesn't have to be now, but could you give us the history and understanding of where that has come from and is in our charter, how we do it differently than so many others? So just, unless you want to answer now, that's fine.
Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, just a real brief explanation. Due to the charter, we have been counting our votes the same way all these years. And we do have the ability to count them because of our charter. So again, we count all the votes, undervotes, overvotes, write-ins, and all of that to get our total amount. So that's just a real brief general explanation that it's through our charter that we can do that.
And so then obviously the only way to change the way that is changing our charter then.
That would be, I'm not sure. Yes? Yes.
Unlikely. Okay, thank you.
To be more specific, we would have to be more specific in the charter.
Gotcha.
So if people don't understand that, maybe we should put it in the in focus, a little bit of a box that tells people what that means. That might be helpful.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Well, I'm going to say whoopee.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Did I get a motion in a second? I did.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Okay, where am I at? Let's see. Vice Mayor Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Holman.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. I don't know if anybody has anything more to say, but I will follow this. Does council have any comments, anything you want to tell?
Give it next week.
Does the city manager have anything to report? Is there any follow-up action required?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Sorry. Mr. City Manager, oh my gosh, somewhere in here, and I don't know where, I have something from the National League of Cities that invites us to apply for a $40,000 grant on an innovative program in our water. And I will give you the information. I'd like you to look it over and see if, in fact, we cannot apply for that, because I think we have a good shot at winning it. And I've got it here in my piles, and I'll get it to you before I leave tonight.
Oh, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Welcome.
We are not bashful about asking for dollars,
Oh,
especially
no,
grant
I'm not
dollars.
either.
Does council have any inquiries to staff or any future agenda items? Okay, the next meeting will be a work session, a regular meeting on April 10th, 2017. This meeting is adjourned.
before 10 o'clock.